educators who inspire and support your students every day. I challenge you to continue your pursuit of excellence till the very last day of your career. As you well know, teaching is not a solo event. Through my years of teaching, I have had many people who have supported and shaped who I am today. My alma mater, Stetson University, trained me and continues to contribute to my professional growth. Dr. Hines, I especially want to thank you for being a guiding light for me throughout my career, from the first moment that I stepped through Stetson's doors until today. I especially want to thank my administrators that I've had over the years. Jerry Gill was my first principal, Dave Fisher, Joanne Rodkey, Willie Williams, and Jasmine Henson have all given me tremendous opportunities to experiment and try new ideas, sometimes harebrained ideas, but definitely new. And I thank you all for taking a risk on me. Teaching is not done in a bubble, as you know, and the teachers that we rub shoulders with every day shape who we are. To name all of the amazing teachers that I have taught with over the years would keep us here all night, and I know nobody wants that. But I'm thankful for each and every one of them. I would be remiss, however, if I failed to mention the most important teachers in my life. First, retired Volusia County teacher Deborah Roberts, who holds the title of my mom, and I can certainly say that without her guidance, love, and support, I would not be standing before you this evening. Everything, and if you know my mom, you know this to be true, everything I know about writing, I've learned from her. For the last 5 years, I had the privilege of co-teaching with her writing, and I just have to say that that is one of the biggest blessings that God has bestowed on my life. Thank you, Mom, and please, please, please don't stop volunteering in my classroom. I love you. To my dad, Jim Roberts, who's also a retired Volusia County school teacher, I want to thank you for teaching me intermediate math. I was a primary teacher until I went to Blue Lake 5 years ago and was in 4th grade. And I also want to thank you for teaching me about the value of a Skittle. I would also like to thank my sister Tammy, who has supported my classroom endeavors throughout my career. She even bought me my own document camera and never fails to send my students gifts. And to my sons, Zachary, Eli, and Max, and my nephew Casey, I want to thank you for putting up with all the teacher talk that you've endured through the years and the long hours that you've spent at school when we've stayed late. Finally, the most important relationships in my teaching career, the students. They are the reason that I stay up late at night, grading, laboring over what I need to do to improve, talking to parents, surfing the web, Twittering with fellow educators. There's probably people here that I Twitter with that I have no idea that you're here, but that's been a new passion of mine. I count it as an immense privilege, but also responsibility to instruct students in Volusia County. The power that a teacher has to change a student's life is immeasurable. As the great author Dr. Seuss stated, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. It reminds me of a student I had several years ago, Chris. He wrote about me by saying that when school started, I hated reading. But my teacher, Mrs. Diedrichs, kept pushing me to read because reading is important in life. So now every day I read calmly because I thought reading was boring. But now it shows me a picture in my head that I think is real. As teachers, we all have students, stories like that, and these are the stories that we should hold fast to. As stated by Nikos Kazantakis, true teachers are those who use themselves as bridges over which they invite their students to cross. Then, having facilitated their crossing, joyfully collapse, encouraging them to create their own. Thank you so much.
like to present you this check and vehicle to drive for the year as part of your award for your great achievements, being Teacher of the Year for Volusia County. So enjoy it and enjoy your reign. Give her a round of applause.
And before you go, we want to present this proclamation from Volusia County, Florida, as today being Robin Dietrich's Day.
So I just want to say to you, thank you, because without you students, I would not be Teacher of the Year. You are the amazing people at this school, and I'm proud to represent Blue Lake Elementary School. We're an awesome school, right? Woo! Thank you so much.
Today we came out to do a canine demo for the class that named our newest member of the canine unit. This is the first time when we selected a new dog. We thought it would be nice to get the community involved, works for the city, so that way we could get the kids involved. And so every elementary school in Port Orange was offered an opportunity to name the dog.
We did several civics lessons on law enforcement, the importance of respecting law enforcement, the men, the women, the animals that are involved in protecting our communities. We also did lessons about the origin of names and where our own names come from and the importance of names. And then the culminating activity was to choose a name for this new puppy. So we were fortunate enough to be selected as the winner of that contest.
It was a great success. We got a total of 8 names submitted, so I think we will, with our future dogs, go ahead and offer this up for the community. It's a good community building tool, and it gets us out there. Out of 8 names that we got, we definitely went with Nico. Nico was the awesome one. And you guys made an awesome flyer, poster for us. He gave us the actual name, what the meaning of the name was, which was really cool. Victory of the people, that's perfect. Because these dogs are not only our dogs as handlers, they're not only the city dogs, they're also your guys' dogs because you guys live in the community.
really excited this morning here at Sunrise to welcome back Staff Sergeant Chris Casey, who is in the Army National Guard. He's been serving our country in Afghanistan for the last 15 months, and this morning he is going to surprise his children. They do not know that he is back and that he's here, and so we are having Hero Day here at Sunrise this morning, and we are going to surprise his kids by having him appear before them as the ultimate hero that we're celebrating this morning. And we're really excited to support this family and recognize his contributions to our community. So we've got guests here from the Deltona Fire Department. They are definitely heroes. Can we give a cheer for the fire department?
Hey, go ahead and come on, guys. First two, go to the side. Couple volunteers. We got one. We got two. Come over there. Hey, we have a real hero.
For a whole year so that he can protect our country and keep us safe. So he is definitely a hero. Let's give him a hand.
What's the first thing you're going to do after school today?
This one wants to go fishing. I'm not quite sure. We might just go out to dinner.
Is there going to be a lot of catching up to do?
Yeah, a lot of catching up on, buddy.
It looked like you just didn't know what to say.
Then nightly sings the staring owl. To-oo, to-it, to-oo.
Robin Dietrichs is the most amazing, steadfast teacher that I've ever met. My child was in her class, and I think seeing her work with students has been absolutely inspirational to me. Everything she does, she layers and takes the best of different instructional and research-based strategies and puts them into practice in her room. If it works one year, she does it. If it doesn't, she changes it up and is constantly looking to improve for the particular kids that she has.
All right, now it's your job to score me. Look at your partner. My students really have large academic needs, and I know that they need me to push them, to have rigorous expectations for them, because I know that it can change their whole life.
She cares about how they succeed in their work, and she cares about whether we graduate from the 4th grade and move on to the 5th grade.
My daughter's in middle school, and she refers back to when I was in 4th grade 3 years ago, I learned something from Ms. Dietrichs, and it's helping me today. And that's the kind of teaching that we all, as professionals, hope that in the future, our kids are going to remember us as they go on.
So read that sentence.
The world is
Please join me in congratulating Robin Dietrichs. Come on up, Robin! Where is she? There she comes.
Wow, I did not expect for this to happen. I would like to thank you, Superintendent Russell, school board members, Nancy Waite, Cynthia Ramirez, and the Futures Foundation for this great honor. It is truly a humbling experience to be accepting this award. I'm honored to be among such a remarkable and distinguished group of educators who represent the best that Volusia County has to offer. To all of my fellow Teacher of the Year recipients, I commend you. Your dedication to teaching has led you to be recognized as outstanding, passionate, creative educators who inspire and support your students every day. I challenge you to continue your pursuit of excellence till the very last day of your career. As you well know, teaching is not a solo event. Through my years of teaching, I have had many people who have supported and shaped who I am today. My alma mater, Stetson University, trained me and continues to contribute to my professional growth. Dr. Hines, I especially want to thank you for being a guiding light for me throughout my career, from the first moment that I stepped through Stetson's doors until today. I especially want to thank my administrators that I've had over the years. Jerry Gill was my first principal, Dave Fisher, Joanne Rodkey, Willie Williams, and Jasmine Henson have all given me tremendous opportunities to experiment and try new ideas, sometimes harebrained ideas, but definitely new. And I thank you all for taking a risk on me. Teaching is not done in a bubble, as you know, and the teachers that we rub shoulders with every day shape who we are. To name all of the amazing teachers that I have taught with over the years would keep us here all night, and I know nobody wants that. But I'm thankful for each and every one of them. I would be remiss, however, if I failed to mention the most important teachers in my life. First, retired Volusia County teacher Deborah Roberts, who holds the title of my mom, and I can certainly say that without her guidance, love, and support, I would not be standing before you this evening. Everything, and if you know my mom, you know this to be true, everything I know about writing, I've learned from her. For the last 5 years, I had the privilege of co-teaching with her writing, and I just have to say that that is one of the biggest blessings that God has bestowed on my life. Thank you, Mom, and please, please, please don't stop volunteering in my classroom. I love you. To my dad, Jim Roberts, who's also a retired Volusia County school teacher, I want to thank you for teaching me intermediate math. I was a primary teacher until I came went to Blue Lake 5 years ago and was in 4th grade. And I also want to thank you for teaching me about the value of a Skittle. I would also like to thank my sister Tammy, who has supported my classroom endeavors throughout my career. She even bought me my own
I don't know that we had any trouble in my area. Nobody asked me. Somebody asked me in Cuthbert's area, and I directed her. You know, because I didn't know what to do. I said, "Oh, she gave me her address. That she was a mom that was disabled, and blah blah blah." I said, "Where do you live?" She waits 3 or 4 days, answers me. Then I said, "Oh, your representative is Miss Cuthbert. I'm putting her in this email."
Good afternoon. We call Tuesday, August 23rd meeting to order. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for joining today's meeting, either in person or via the internet. At this time, I would like to introduce my guests at the dais, but before that, just one housekeeping. Please place your all electronic devices on silence. If it failed to go off during the meeting, we will kindly collect a check for $50 made out to Futures. At this time, my guest to my far left, Ms. Linda Cuthbert, representing District 3, Dr. John Hill, representing District 1, Mr. Ted Dorn, School Board Attorney. To my far right, I have Mrs. Connie Wise, the agency clerk, Ms. Linda Costello, representing District 4, Ms. Melanie Johnson, Vice Chairman, representing District 5, Superintendent Russell, and I am Ida Wright, Chairman, representing District 2. Items for approval on this agenda are items 1.03, 2.02, 5.01, 6.01, 15.01, 18.01, 19.01, and 20.01. Today, we will have one time for public participation for anything requiring approval on the agenda and items of general interest. During each meeting, we have a school board member that will bring reflections as it relates to our school board vision statement. And today, that honor goes to Dr. John Hill. Dr. Hill?
Thank you. Our district vision statement is ensuring that all students receive a superior 21st century education. There are 3 qualities that ensure that any business has the best potential to be successful. They are in no particular order: transparency, customer service, and leadership. It is my hope that we are making strides to accomplish these goals. We started this year with a focus on leadership, many new principals, teachers, and administrative staff. Some new faces in new locations and some fulfilling roles that they have held for many years. Customer service continues to need improvement, but I see a refreshed demeanor with my interactions with leadership and staff. We must continue to improve the nature of how we deliver our product and the kindness we exude while delivering it. Lastly, transparency is the area I feel we must focus on over the next few school years. We must understand our lack of transparency in order to understand the need in this area. This is no small task, but the objectives must be targeted and work has to be done to make this quality shine for Volusia County schools. Take these qualities and label them with the mnemonic TLC and start giving it without delay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. Moving on to the approval of the minutes for July 8th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
The motion has been properly moved and second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Those that oppose, the same sign. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. And I need approval of the minutes for the August 9th regular session. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
The motion has been properly moved and second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Those that are opposed, the same sign. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Mr. Superintendent, did anyone require anything to be removed from the consent agenda or any
No,
changes?
Madam Chair.
Okay. Moving to item 2.02, approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
The motion has been properly moved and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Those that are opposed, the same sign. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Moving down to our first presentation, first day of school, Superintendent Russell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This annual presentation will be presented by our area superintendents, Mr. Gary Marks and Mrs. Susan Freeman.
Superintendent Russell. We are thrilled to report that school year 16-17 is off to a great start. During the past 7 days, I'm sure that many of you have had an opportunity to visit several schools. Between the two of us, Mr. Marks and I, we have visited over 40 schools within the past 7 days. And what we have found is that there has been a very positive attitude. There's lots of excitement always associated with the beginning of a new school year. And I can tell you that the kids are excited, the teachers and administrators are excited. And it just seems that Twitter is just blowing up with many, many positive things and events that have been going on at our schools. Overall, I'm happy to report that we have had minimal issues, and the common theme as we have traveled around is that everyone is so optimistic and upbeat about the beginning of another school year.
Good evening. 47,922 students were in attendance on opening day. By August 22nd, there were 62,163 students in attendance. Now, what we need to keep in mind is that in kindergarten, we have a 3-day transition. So a third of the kindergartners show up the first day, second, and then third day. And then on that fourth day, we have all of our kindergartners in place. Also, this year, for the first time, we had 6 schools participating in the 9th grade transition program. So on that first day for our high schools, for 6 of our high schools, we only had the 9th graders on campus. So that's why there's quite a discrepancy in those numbers. We also need to keep in mind that after Labor Day is really the true measure of what our total attendance is going to be. But absolutely, our schools are off to a great start. Students are engaged in their learning activities. And we are just so excited for what's going to be a fantastic school year.
Okay, and so to date, we have hired a total of 478 new teachers, and this hiring has taken place through a series of job fairs, school-based hiring efforts, and recruitment fairs.
So certainly the buses are out and running their routes. We are transporting approximately 25,000 students each day. Our students across the district are at their bus stops. The buses are working out a few of the minor chinks and appear to be running very, very smoothly at this point. So probably the biggest news of this school year, and if we go back about 9 months, I believe I was at the dais, and I believe I said that it would be a very good idea and that we would have probably 100% compliance at our high schools. I don't think I did say that. I think what I said is and I say this speaking of a native of Volusia County. I was born at Halifax Hospital, went to public schools, have worked for this district that I love for 32 years. And I stand here, I stand corrected. I did not think that it would be as overwhelmingly successful as we have seen in the first week. Kindergarten through grade 12, an overwhelming compliance. I would put it somewhere north of 99%. We can't call it 100 because we do have students, and many of the non-compliant students, it was because they didn't have their uniform. And that's where our schools stepped in, helping our families. The feedback that we are getting from parents, from teachers, from principals, and also from our students is that they like it. It has reduced the stress on campus. I have heard comments about when you look across the cafeteria at lunchtime, whether it's elementary, middle, or high, it's hard to tell who's rich and who's not. That statement was said to me. I don't think you can overstate the success that we have had with this. And I, for one, was a doubter. But absolutely, the students are on board. And there's always going to be. There will always be a difference of opinion of whether this is good or bad. But from a compliance standpoint, from a standpoint of our parents, administrators, and teachers, I think sitting here this evening, we have to say it is an overwhelming success. So I commend the board for the leadership on this issue.
And I must say that I tried to tell Mr. Marks all along that this was going to be very successful. But I do want to add to the uniform discussion that, the kids, in talking with them, many of the high school students, I just stopped and asked them, how do you feel about the uniform policy? And they said, you know what, it just makes it so much easier when I get up in the morning to get dressed. And so I think that, it's been a wonderful thing, and I do also want to commend the board for their leadership in this area. Regarding variances, the district received 1,792 variance requests by the deadline of June 1st. An additional 761 variance requests were received after that deadline. 660 variance applications were denied, and 1,830 variances were approved. 63 of those variances were asked to be canceled by the parents. Schoolway Cafe, I'd like to add, is launching a wonderful program. They are now offering free breakfast to all students every day during this school year. And I think that that's just absolutely wonderful. And for many of our kids in high-risk, at-risk schools and poverty areas, not only are they receiving free breakfast, but they qualify also for free lunch. And several schools have the 21st Century Grant Program and the Food Brings Hope program that also provides dinner. And so I think that, it's a wonderful thing that all of these groups have come together to support our students, and my hat is off to Schoolway Cafe for providing free breakfast to our students. And I just want to say one other thing is regarding uniforms. The community really stepped in and helped our students in this respect. And we owe them a lot of gratitude for supporting us in this area. Many churches and other organizations really jumped in and assisted our students and families in this effort. As you heard during our last school board meeting, Campbell Middle School, because of their school grade that they received for the third year in a row, those parents were offered the opportunity for the Opportunity Scholarship Program. 264 parents requested participation in the Opportunity Scholarship Program as of the deadline of August 10th. As of yesterday, 139 students transferred from Campbell Middle School to Henson Middle School, and 120 students transferred from Campbell Middle School to Ormond Middle School.
So one of the most rewarding and fun-filled days of the beginning of a school year is when we recognize our principals of the year. And this year we are very, very proud to recognize Dr. Marianne Bull, Elementary Principal of the Year, and also Mrs. Rose Rowland, Secondary Principal of the Year. Both of these distinguished educators have committed their lives to Volusia County and the success of our students and our teachers at their respective schools. There are no two more deserving educators in Volusia County than these two ladies, and we are, as a district, just so proud that they are representing us. We also have the opportunity to recognize the Superintendent's Outstanding Achievement Award recipients. This year, Richard Shaw, Office Specialist at Cypress Creek Elementary, and Dee Dee Marquardt, Administrative Secretary for Federal Programs and Grants, have received this distinguished award this year. And this award is given for service how they serve their schools and their departments with a great deal of integrity, professionalism, and competence. We are extremely proud of these two individuals and are looking forward to all four of these individuals as we work through this school year and all of the great work that they are going to do.
And at the beginning of the year, 5 new principals started new leadership opportunities at their schools. We actually appointed 7 new principals, but 2 are yet to actually take over at their schools. Tucker Harris is now the new principal at Ormond Beach Elementary. Mike Leader is at Freedom Elementary. Sherry Lou McConnell will take over in November at
No,
she's there now.
Excuse me. Sherry Lou McConnell is at Enterprise. Jeff Miller is at Taylor Middle High School. Maite Porter will take over in October at McGinnis Elementary, and Jacques Slocum is at Southwestern Middle, and Michelle Soika will take over in November at Manatee Cove. I guess I almost gave Sherry Lou a heart attack if she's listening.
So we have a quick video that we just want to play that has some pictures from all of our schools of the first day back to school.
And we'd like to thank Liz Thayer for putting together this video presentation.
So the 2016-2017 school year is off to a great start, and it is going to be an awesome school year. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to 4.01, public participation. When your name is called, please state your name and address for the records, and you'll have 4 minutes to address the board. First, Mr. Andrew Spar, followed by Mrs. Joanna Caney Oliveri.
And good evening, board members. Andrew Spar, 1 Mary Ann Terrace, Ormond Beach, president of the Volusia United Educators, and welcome back to the new school year. It has been as always, the beginning of the school year is always very exciting. And so I wanted to talk about a couple of things. One is, we talked today about all the excitement out in our schools. Dr. Hill, you talked about transparency and leadership. And I agree with that. And so a couple of things I want to point out. One, I would hope we would all commit to working with the state legislature and advocating for some changes in state law. We've talked about funding, but I also think we need to look at what's going on with the failure of this performance pay implementation and the inequity that it's creating and the hardship that it's creating and the inordinate amount of time that's being spent by payroll and by personnel and the confusion and chaos it has created throughout our school district at all levels because of a lousily thought about state law. The other issue I wanted to bring up was the issue, Dr. Hill, that you placed on Facebook, and that is the issue of teacher attendance. Our teacher attendance rate last year exceeded 95%, meaning 95% of the time our teachers were here in the classroom. And if you look at the national rate is somewhere around 94%, so we're slightly better than the national attendance rate. But Dr. Hill, what concerned me about the information that you posted, as I said on your Facebook page, was that it was...
Madam Chair, is Mr. Spar supposed to be addressing me, or is he supposed to be addressing you?
The board. So can you address the board, Mr. Spar, please? And I'll give you
Madam,
seconds back.
With all due respect, Madam Chair, I think I have the right to address any board member, and this is public input time, right?
Yes, it is.
So as public input, it is my right as a citizen to be able to sit here and talk about information that's been provided. And since Dr. Hill, it was information you provided, that's what I'm addressing. So what I would like to say, as I said, is that the information provided on the website by Dr. Hill, and therefore I won't address you, to all board members, is that it was inaccurate. It was a flat-out inflation by 7,000 days plus the information that was put out there. That is lacking of transparency and lacking of leadership. Since you brought those issues up earlier, I think it's important that you guys lead in that way. And to say and to put out misinformation and incomplete information by anyone in this district should not be tolerated, should not be acceptable. And the fact that we would impugn the people who work in our schools in such a way to attempt, I think, to build contempt for the work that people do every day and the dedication that our people have, and to ignore the fact that the majority of people who work in our schools, in our teaching profession, are female, and that in today's day and age still, when a child is homesick, it is usually the mom who stays home. And actually, even with my own girls, they'll say they want mommy when they're not feeling well, as much as I'd love for them to say daddy. But that's the way we see things. And the fact of the matter is those numbers also included workers' comp. Those numbers included long-term illnesses where people are out fighting cancer, where people are out fighting heart disease and other issues. So if we're going to be transparent and if we're going to provide leadership, then it's incumbent upon every board member and everyone in our district to make sure that information we're sharing is in the appropriate venue, done in an appropriate and professional manner, and done in a way that is complete and accurate. And anyone who does something otherwise is not only being disingenuous, they're undermining the people who work in this school, and it's an insult to every person who works in this school. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Joanna Caney Oliveri, followed by Mrs. Merrill Daitoski. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name.
Joanna Caney Oliveri, 22 Minnow Drive. I'd like to piggyback and agree with Andrew Spar. I will address the board about a board member's comments on their personal page, which I understand you have full right to voice your personal opinion on your personal page. However, when you do it in a manner that you are like not being professional. I think 2020 hindsight rings true here. I think that in your mind, as much as you might not want to publicly admit it, you might be saying, I kind of made a mistake by putting that 50,000 out there in a little black pen and then the red exclamation points, and then bigger a day later, and then bigger on a banner plane. Number one, your information was inaccurate and extremely exaggerated by 7,000. Number two, it was the night before school starts. Number three, you are a school board member that represents all of the teachers, not just the teachers in your district or your zone, all of our teachers. When you set a tone that makes them feel like, here we go again, we don't have our board members on our side. You're here to represent our children and our teachers. And again, it goes back to, you know, of all people, you've taken sick time. You've missed graduations. You missed Teacher of the Year for whatever reason it was. You've missed the big awards ceremony at Mainland High School where all of our students were being recognized for state records that were being broken. We shouldn't just start the year off on a bad foot. We should be positive. And the problem isn't how many times teachers call in sick. If they're over their allotted time, the principal should deal with that employee. The problem is you don't have an accurate substitute budget to accommodate what the employer is offering the employee. That's not the teacher's fault. We have teachers out on cancer, trying to survive for their life. As an MD, I would think that you would be compassionate about that. We had 2 teachers at Pine Trail out for maternity leave. They're entitled to take their leave. It's in their contract, and by law, they are guaranteed it, and you're getting into a legal little mess by kind of complaining about it. The problem isn't how many days our teachers take. The problem is we don't have the funds to support the substitute budget so that we cannot accommodate what our employees are required or allowed to take. So I wish that we had started the school year off on a, you know, it's the night before school. I'm so excited. It's a brand new school year. I'm behind my teachers. We're going to have a great year. Instead, we had, you know, this, which, yes, it's your public, personal, private page, but you are all board members. You are all public people. And what you say and do can be held against you wherever you are. And then what, you know, people want to say things about what you do on your personal time. That's the problem you have to deal with by being in this position. It's not all roses and chocolates. It's sometimes we don't like what she said, we don't like what he said. We're entitled, it's still America, we're still allowed to voice our opinions about things. But as a public official, you have to realize you're impacting a lot more than just your little inner circle. The other thing I'd like to say on a positive note is Pine Trail Elementary has no air conditioning except for in one building in the media center. I'd like to commend you on acting rapidly on fixing that problem. I know that the unit is on its way to Orlando on a truck, so I applaud you for that. One other minor little thing I'd like to mention is with 2 children with life-threatening nut allergies, and I know that in year 6 of public education, I should be able to find those forms very rapidly and readily on the website. I have to dig and dig and dig, and I'm not the only one for those forms. I wish that there would be like a tab, medical forms, then whatever. I mean, it literally takes you a long time to find those. Number 3, with the Opportunity Scholarship, I understand that situation. I wish that there had been some people taken out of maybe district offices to go help accommodate the 120 plus students that came in. Because when I go to get my daughter she gets out a period early, there are literally like 6 kids in the office. And I'd say, because I talked to them, what are you guys doing? We have no class schedule yet. So I get that they had to be moved over, but we should have maybe brought some people in to help out with the scheduling, the transition. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Merrill Dykowski, followed by Ms. Gina Lloyd. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name.
It's Dykowski. Dykowski.
Okay.
Meryl Dykowski, 6091 Spruce Point Circle. I'm here tonight to speak to you in reference to the retention of my highly proficient honor roll student. She minimally participated in the FSA in order to force her authentic classroom evidence of 180 days of hard work and testing to be what was relied upon to promote her instead of a single flawed test on a single day. While the statute provides for the elimination of social promotion and mandates retention in the 3rd grade, it does so specifically in the case of students who have documented reading deficiencies. The statute also provides at 1008.256B for a good cause exemptions for retention of such students. Since my daughter has never had a documented reading deficiency, she should not have been retained and is therefore not in need of a good cause exemption to be promoted to the 4th grade. Furthermore, Section C of the statute requires that if she were in danger of being retained due to a reading deficiency, I, as the parent, must have been notified in writing of a very detailed list of 8 items per said statute. Not one time did I ever receive any notification nor require documentation that she has a reading deficiency. No one at the school can provide me with this documentation. Why? Because she doesn't have one, of course. So let's talk about the good cause promotion. Section 1008.256B4, the one about the student portfolio. When you think about a portfolio, you think it's a collection of the student's work and teacher prepared assessments, right? Because you read Rule 6A 1.094221, wherein the Florida DOE defines student portfolio. It tells us that they must be independently produced in the classroom and that must be a certain average length, a 60-40 mix of literary and informational text. And it also reads in Section 3C, such evidence should include chapter or unit tests from the district-adopted core reading curriculum that are aligned with the language arts Florida standards or teacher-prepared assessments. That sounds like an awful lot of actual work that's reflected by the grades and a report card to me. Remember how I said that the report card is mentioned in the statute? This part specifically references the student portfolio-based good cause exemption. 1008.256C, the documentation shall be submitted from the student's teacher to the principal that indicates that the promotion of the student is appropriate and based upon the student's academic record. In order to minimize paperwork requirements, such documentation shall consist of only existing progress monitoring plan, IEP, report card, or student portfolio. Why would you use a report card to document a student portfolio? The statute clearly says that you can, and more importantly, that you should do so in order to minimize paperwork requirements. The only question is, when should you use your report card? And the answer is very obvious: when the student has passing grades. The only time you need the full portfolio, documented student portfolio, is when the student does not have passing grades. Rule 6A tells us that for each standard, there must be 3 examples of mastery by a grade of 70% or above. So as long as a student has at least a C and the report card fulfills all of the other portfolio requirements, they should be able to use their report card as documentation in order to minimize paperwork requirements. So the question remains, does the report card fulfill all of those Florida DOE requirements for a portfolio? If it wasn't for my diligent record keeping, the teacher would not have had any evidence that she had successfully completed any 3rd grade standards. The teacher mistakenly sent home documentation that was later needed to compile her reading portfolio. If the county is going to require this portfolio, which is essentially a mini FSA test, instead of going by the statute that says the portfolio should be teacher created, then it is imperative that all 3rd grade teachers know what the district is requiring for a valid portfolio. This should be started at the beginning of the school year also and maintained all along. It should not be something that was thrown together last minute, the last few weeks of school, which is what happened to us. I would like to see Volusia County promote based on report cards, reading counts, and other classroom and district assessments in order to for her to officially be promoted. Our students are being heavily tested already as it is with VLTs, SMTs, DIAs, teacher-created assessments. Therefore, there is certainly not any lack of evidence. The bottom line is we should not be threatening highly proficient 3rd graders with retention in Volusia County when other counties are promoting slowly on report cards and accurate portfolios of student work, not district mini FSA test.
Thank you. Ms. Gina Lloyd.
Good evening, Gina Lloyd, 3730 Cardinal Boulevard, Daytona Beach, 32118. Opting out of state testing is fighting for the soul of education. In light of the 2nd day in court yesterday for some Florida 3rd graders and to bring more awareness to the growing opt-out movement, I'd like to give a brief overview of what opting out is. It is my hope that the board members, the school board, Superintendent Russell, and everyone listening will have a better understanding of why families are so passionate about standing up against high-stakes testing. Opting out is not about a test, avoiding a test, or just one student. Opting out is about the bigger picture. It's about standing up to those looking to destroy education and profit from forced failures. Opting out is an act of civil disobedience in protest of all things wrong with public education. The thing that brings a family to opt out is different for everyone, but all united in taking back our classrooms, returning autonomy to our teachers, removing the high stakes attached to testing, and to insist on all of this for all children. Opting out of state-mandated testing is a moral stand against the harms we have heaped upon our children because of the high stakes tied to testing in the name of false accountability. Having no score forces students' true academic achievements, those documented through carefully planned classroom assignments, teacher-created quizzes and tests, enlightening and real-world project grades, and even district assessments like VLTs, SMTs, DIAs, and EOCs, all which factor into report card grades. These are the truest measures of students' capabilities and aptitudes. These are the measures by which students should be judged, promoted, and recommended for classes, not a single test created by non-educators on a single day. I hear people say testing is part of life, just suck it up and take the test. Well, to those I say this, our kids are heavily tested. They do suck it up. They suck it up more than any 5 to 17-year-old should have to. And they suck it up so much they have had to deal with losing recess, electives, summer vacations, and time studying the arts and vocational skills. How many times can an adult take a test to get a driver's license? How many times can an adult take the GRE, LSAT, MCAT, bar exams, or boards? All very real-world, high-achieving examples. The answer is as many times as it takes, and without punitive consequences. So why are we allowing our children to be punished in such harsh and condemning ways? We have been on this testing crazy train for over 15 years now. Our country hasn't made gains on international standardized tests like it was suggested we would. We didn't meet our goal with No Child Left Behind and Race to the Top. Why not? Because testing is not working. Why? Because testing is not teaching. All testing informs us of is what we already know. Income, race, geography, parental support, and other similar factors are the inequitable driving forces in student academic achievement. Testing and punishment should never go hand in hand if we truly want our kids to achieve. So families like mine opt out. My children deny the data. They work hard and prove themselves by authentic measures, and have learned that they are more than a test score. I urge those of you who are policymakers to sympathize with this movement, to learn about it and understand it and support it. Please visit the optoutfloриданetwork.org to learn more. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to item 5.01, approval of resolution 2016-20. Superintendent Russell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This presentation will be by Ms. Diane Martin Morgan.
Good evening, Chairman Wright, school board members, Superintendent Russell. I want to first start by thanking Mr. Russell for accepting the call to action and sharing with all of our district and school-based administrators about his vision and his expectations for school attendance for 2016-17. Mr. Russell has set the stage for why I am here today and this evening in requesting approval from the board of doing our September Awareness Month. Mr. Russell shared in his direct connection message on yesterday some startling data, and I'd like to talk about that. Chronic absenteeism is missing 10% of school for any reason. This includes excused, unexcused, as well as school suspension. The research is very clear that if we don't address the chronic absenteeism of our students, we will see that this can be a primary cause for many of our students having low academic achievement and a powerful long-term indicator that many of our students may drop out. We do not want to ignore this alarming epidemic. The research is showing that 7.5 million students are chronically absent each year. When we drilled down and looked at the data here in Volusia County, we found that over 9,000 of our students were chronically absent. This hidden, unnoticed, sometimes unaddressed data has been masked by us looking at the average daily attendance or habitual truancy patterns. We want to change and shift how we are looking at that data. We want to make sure that we're not only looking at the students who are present, but addressing all of our students that are missing school, missing critical instructional time, which is impacting their academic success. So if we were just looking at the habitual truancy patterns, you will see that 2,500 students were identified as being habitually truant. Almost 7,000 of those students would have gone unnoticed. And so as a district and as a student service team, we looked at the data and we created our KEEP report, which is going to be a live mechanism for all of our schools to be able to address and know who those students are in the buildings and addressing the attendance every day. We want to make sure that some of these outcomes that you're seeing projected here are not the stories of our students in Volusia County. If our students are not in school the first month of school each and every day, it's a predictor of how things will go for them the duration of the year. If our students as early as kindergarten is not attending regularly, they don't develop that grit and perseverance that is needed for them to master those reading and math skills. We want to ensure that we're doing something about that. So in Volusia County, we have launched our Everybody Every Day campaign because we know that our teachers are working very, very hard each and every day. Mr. Marks and Ms. Freeman talked about the fact that we had an awesome first week. Mr. Reeves down at Edgewater Public shared, one of my social workers, shared his email last week where he celebrated his Bobcats having 19 classes with 100% attendance. It is very possible. It is very possible. We are wanting to make sure that our teachers are able to teach, that the instruction is not slowed down, that they're not spending a lot of time reviewing with our students because they are missing those lessons. So President Obama, in October 2015, launched his campaign of Every Student, Every Day. It's a national initiative to try to address and eliminate absenteeism. The goal nationally is to reduce that chronic absenteeism by 10% each year. That is our goal in Volusia County. So Mr. Russell, as I said, accepted that call to action, and in July, he added and joined in this fight with 200 other superintendents in the United States and 6 other districts right here in the state of Florida in addressing this epidemic. So how are we going to do this in Volusia County? Several ways. We're going to start with engaging our families, helping them to really build those strong habits of regular school attendance. We're going to bring in our community in playing a very vital role in bringing our students. Last year, for the first time with us having our officers in Daytona and at South Daytona Elementary, they partnered with my department and our district, and on every early release day, they were making those truancy visits for us and assisting my social workers in finding out, why are you not in school? What are the barriers that your family and you are facing that we can help you address? So we're going to be digging deeper into the data, not just looking at the average attendance, not just looking at our habitual, but looking at the chronic absenteeism. We're going to launch strategies promoting the attendance and integrating them in everything that we do each and every day. If we band together, wow, what a powerful message that's going to send. So here's how we're going to outline that with shared accountability. It started with Mr. Russell, with that call to action. Tonight, with requesting approval of that proclamation. And in January, we're going to launch our attendance superintendent challenge during the third 9 weeks. At the district level, we're going to continue to promote our attendance policy, making sure that we're addressing the attendance and having accurate data for our schools and our teams to make compelling, responsible, informed patterns and opportunities in affecting change. At the administrative level, they're going to cultivate a culture for learning where they're going to use that data. They're going to address the needs of their students. They're going to build capacity. They're going to advocate for the resources needed. Our teachers, our school counselors, our social workers are going to reach out to those frequently absent students and find out in a supportive way, what can they do to help? What are those barriers? Making sure that we are working with our families, not just during the month of September, but all year long, in helping them to understand it is very important early on for your children to establish those good patterns. And our community, we're going to be asking them to assist us in closing the gap. So you see here, there's a lot of things that we have planned for the month of September. Our principals have already received their packages with all of the exciting things that we want to do. We have done our media release emphasizing the importance. We are doing connected messages. We are having things on our marquee. You will see as you drive from school to school, uniform messaging about the importance of our attendance. We have already sent back to school letters to our parents, letting them know that we have set this goal. We care about their children. We want them to be a part of this shared responsibility. You're going to see articles in the school's newsletters, their blogs, things on their social media, all different arenas, masses of ways of communicating. We will be doing that. And then we will have our annual Everybody, Every Day poster poem, rap song video, where our students will be able to show with their skills why school attendance is important to them. And we're going to celebrate our community by making this progress. So attendance is everyone's responsibility. Our superintendent has laid our guided practice, and we are going to ensure that our students are in school, they're accounted for, they are connected, and they are engaged in the learning. We are asking you tonight to be a part of our supporters, our champion in making sure that we make a difference in the lives of our students right here in Volusia County. Thank you.
Any questions, comments?
I would just like to sincerely thank you, Mr. Russell, for identifying this and having a plan of action. I sat in on a kindergarten reading group, and there was one student who was clearly behind the other students, and the teacher informed me that he only came to school 2 to 3 times a week. And so for all of those students, I just thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
September is also our PTA. Usually it's the recruitment month, as well as our open house for all of our schools. So it would be nice to, when parents show up, their attendance is important.
Absolutely.
And then to also comment on their children's attendance in school. So we have a captivated audience at all open houses. So I'm sure you'll do something then as well.
We will absolutely be at those schools, and we have informational flyers that the schools already have, and we'll be making available and sharing with our parents during many of those opportunities. Open house, our fact fairs. So like I said, we're not going to do it just only in the month of September, but we're taking the show on the road all year.
I know it's also the role of a teacher to call home often. And I've made many phone calls home. And doing attendance also, are we going to, are principals going to give our teachers a little extra time? Maybe instead of PD or that PLC, use PLC time, to make phone calls home about attendance? How will we be able to allow some of our teachers have a little extra time to make those phone calls that are so necessary?
We could certainly discuss that with the principals. As I've investigated this, and I mentioned it in the direct connection, there are oftentimes students that are very visible, like as the teacher pointed out to you, that how much time the student has missed. But what we have found nationally, what has been discovered is that there are students that fly under the proverbial radar, and they miss 2 days a month. And at the end of 9 months, that's 18 days, and that's 10% of the school year that's being chronically absent. So what we want is if the teacher, or what we would like to see, if the teachers are noticing a pattern, their first step is to contact the guidance counselor and the administration, and to let them run interference. What I have noticed on Twitter, because Mr. Marks is correct, it's been going wild over the last week. How many teachers are making calls home and introducing themselves, especially I'm seeing at the elementary level. And they're challenging each other to do that, and they're making that connections with families. So when the time comes to make a call like that, it more than likely would be received.
Okay, and as long as teachers know the right path to take,
Yes.
Especially at the middle and high schools when they have so many students. When you get to your CTE classes and gym, art, I mean, they have a lot of students. So as long as they know who their contact is to help them with attendance, that would be nice. As long as it's a clear, okay, I know exactly what I need to do, especially with our almost 500 new teachers that we have in the district. But I applaud you. Thank you very much for doing this.
Two comments. I want to piggyback. So with the new technology that we're looking at, will we allow it to have the capability of sending some type of alert either to the person that will help oversee this when we have a student that will have chronic absenteeism? Because it's one thing if they're inputting attendance every day, it should trigger some type of report to be sent somewhere just for data collection. Will we make sure that as we design our new software that we look at that? Because it's easy for a teacher to overlook that with 25 students. But if they're taking attendance regularly, putting it into the computer, we should have some mechanism that would trigger some type of alert to go either to your office or somebody's office to say, this student is tracking to become a habitual offender.
I would say as a former, well, yes, with the student information program that will be online, that there'll be those types of triggers. What happens now is the teacher's input, and you have an attendance clerk. And they're really your first line for what we call EWS, the early warning system, where as they look at what has been inputted, they would be able to see the number of days that a student has missed. And at that time, they do contact, they could contact the administrator. I know we have the 5-day notification, the 10-day notification that goes to administration at this time.
Okay. Okay. Yes, so we do have some built-in triggers.
Okay. And now the tough question, who's going to oversee this?
We are all in this together. So at the district level.
We can say that.
Yes, ma'am.
But do we have a true truancy department?
Well, you have me and my 6 school social workers. That is our truancy department.
Okay, so my colleagues and the superintendent need to have a conversation. Because if we're serious about this, these are the kind of things we have to put money with, honestly.
Yes,
I agree.
Because we can't put it on teachers. We can't put it on the social workers because we need you to do other things. So we really need to look at if we need a person or persons to look at truancy, if we're serious about this initiative. Okay, you've answered my questions.
Yes, ma'am. You know, for those that don't know, I adopted my children, but my daughter missed about 60 days in the 2nd grade.
Okay.
So that challenged her the rest of her school years. She has struggled. I got her at 10 years old, and the boys were 4 and 7. And then I was talking to a principal this week, and there's a direct correlation between a school grade and testing and outcomes to their attendance.
Yes.
We know this, so I am excited that we're doing this.
Yes.
This matters. And somehow we need to let these students know they matter.
Yes.
Because
they
a lot
do.
of them feel like it doesn't matter if they're not here.
A lot of times when they're not in school and someone doesn't ask the question, why?
That's right.
Or
welcome them back when they come. They really feel unnoticed, that we
Right.
don't care. And so we want to make sure that they do know that their school attendance matter, that them being here in the seat is vital to their learning and their long-term growth.
I agree. Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I add something?
Sure.
When we were talking about our policy of tardies, I brought up the fact that, especially at the high school level, a lot of our kids are not absent all day.
Right.
They'll miss first period because they haven't gotten out of bed, or they'll skip fifth period because it's right before lunch, or they'll skip seventh period because they have something else to do and they walk off. That is a huge problem. When you just miss a class here and there, or you constantly miss fifth period, and it's not an all day. And I think at the high school level, that is a huge danger.
It
So
is.
it's not an all day, but it's a constant absence in a certain class period. So we need somehow to capture that information as well.
And we are, when we have students who are periodically tardy. The law changed in 2006, where if they have 5 unexcused tardy, that can equal an absent.
Okay.
And so we do have those students that are being addressed. But yes, it is a challenge.
Okay, so if this young lady has a total of 7 people, 6 people in your department plus yourself,
Yes, ma'am.
to be in charge of over almost 63,000 students, I agree with Chairman Wright. We do need someone who is helping you specifically for truancy and absenteeism. I agree.
But I have another question, and you may not be the person to ask. And Superintendent Russell, you may know. But I'm going to use my son. He's dual enrolled. And they call me every day for the periods he's dual enrolled. Do you receive that? Is that part of your calculation? Because if it is, that skews the number. If we have 1,000 students that are dual enrolled, that in fact are going to class, passing those classes, but it's triggered that they're absent every day. And I just ignore the calls, but I get them every day because he is dual enrolled.
What should be on the schedule, for instance, my son is dual enrolled as well, and so he's at school at Pine Ridge, 5th, 6th, and 7th period. He's dual enrolled the first 4 periods, so that should show on his schedule.
It shows on the schedule, but we get a call from Spruce Creek every day.
We'll just
I'm just saying, so
what
we get, those are the
triggers
type of things that we need to make sure
Nuances.
that we're not triggering students that are in fact in school.
Legitimately.
Exactly.
Mine is-
Because we want a false positive. I mean,
We
that
just
would just
shake
say,
our
you know, what did you say?
We get it all the time.
Yeah.
And it's not dual enroll. They say they missed the class, then I go ask. I go ask sometimes just to mess with my kids. And they're there. They were a little late, and the teachers marked them absence, and all of a sudden we have an absence. And I'm getting a notification, so that's something we have to be aware of.
Accurate
Not-
inputting.
Yeah, because
Accurate.
then it looks like we are missing more days.
Thank you, Superintendent Russell. Thank you, Ms. Morgan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The superintendent recommends the approval of Resolution 2016-20, recognizing the month of September 2016 as Attendance Awareness Month.
So moved.
Second.
The motion has been properly moved and second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Those that oppose, the same sign. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
So before we move to the next item, I just don't want to move past this. As we start thinking about if we have funding, direct funding, Superintendent Russell, can you bring back what it would cost if we needed an additional person or persons to help with this? Because I just don't think it's possible for 6 or 7 people to do this and do it effectively. That's my personal opinion, but I do want to hear from my colleagues. What are your thoughts?
I agree with you. There's the old verbiage, one more thing we have to do. And I think if we're going to do this correctly, we must address it appropriately and put the money where our mouths are.
I'll just say the question needs to be asked. It's been asked, and I'll wait for them to answer the question.
Okay.
Fine.
Anything else? Okay. Okay. Thank you. We'll move on to item 6.01, approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
The motion has been properly moved and second. Any additional questions?
I have one. We're adopting a partnership with Volusia County Health Services.
Yes.
What are some of the services that they provide for our children?
I'm sorry, I was asked that by another board member, and we sent that information. They provide not only services, but they also provide nurses at certain schools. So
we have a contract with the Department of Health that provides basic services for all of our schools. And then we have also comprehensive schools that the health department provides some staff at DeLand High and this year Stark. And then they provide 5 full-service schools with staff. And then some of that money also pays for travel, equipment, our screening team that goes around and does the mandated screenings, so those kind of things.
Is that screening like for vision?
Vision, hearing, scoliosis, height, and weight.
Okay, and what about teeth? Anything?
We also have an MOU with the Florida Volusia County Health Department, and they provide dental services to mostly the Title I schools, K through 5.
Okay, thank you. I just thought it would be a good idea for the public to hear all of what they do for our students. Okay, thank you.
and those who qualify.
And if they, also if they fail the vision, we have a MOU we've started this year as well with Florida Vision Quest. So they will follow our screening team and they will come in and do all of our failures, students that failed, absentees, and if their kids qualify for the program, they will receive free glasses.
Okay, now is this done at a certain grade level, the beginning of the school?
Well, we
or?
will do the mandated levels because we're contracted with Volusia County Health Department to provide those services, and Florida Vision Quest is going to come and do the ones that failed for the mandated levels, and then all of the ones that were not required for screening. So all of the students 2, 4, so everybody will be screened.
Okay, so that's K through 12?
No, not
just
high school.
elementary?
Yes, elementary.
Elementary.
And some middle schools.
Middle schools. Okay,
Yes.
thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Russell.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Those that oppose, the same sign. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Moving to item 16.01, superintendent's announcements.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our open house schedule is as follows. August 29th through September 2nd will be high schools. September 6th through the 9th will be middle schools and special centers. September 12th through the 16th is elementary schools. The Volusia County Council PTA's Welcome Back Breakfast will be Friday, September 2nd, 2016, LPGA International, Daytona Beach. Registration 7:30 a.m., breakfast at 8 a.m. The Labor Day holiday is Monday, September 5th, 2016. Schools and district offices closed. The next regular school board meeting will be Tuesday, September 13th, 2016, 5:30 p.m., the boardroom here at the DeLand Administrative Complex. The final budget presentation and public hearing will be Tuesday, September 13th, 2016, in the boardroom at the DeLand Administrative Complex. Budget presentation followed by a 6 p.m. public hearing. Adoption of the final 2016-17 ad valorem tax millage rate and budget. That concludes my announcements.
Thank you, Superintendent Russell. Moving to item 17.01, presentation, Superintendent Russell.
GCA, and then that will be followed by Dr. Melissa Carr and company. They will give a tech update to the board.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, Mr. Russell. Thank you for this opportunity for allowing us to come up for a few minutes and talk about where we were last year, our summer clean, where we are today, and what we expect in the future with GCA. Just give us a few minutes. We're pulling up the PowerPoint right now, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Russell, to Mr. Tysinger to go over the results from last year. And we'll answer any questions at the end.
Okay, good evening. The overall average. With the areas at the top of this chart being the areas where we saw the least amount of discrepancies, areas such as the clinic, like you might expect. The areas at the bottom of the chart were the high traffic areas where we tended to see more discrepancies. This shows the overall trend throughout the year. The high points being periods just following major project work. So we had a high point at the beginning of the year when we came out of the summer, and then we had another high point following winter break when a lot of project cleaning was done, and then it tends to slope off through the year, through the school year. I did break it down by the districts so that you can see where your average was for your district. This is District 1, Dr. Hill, your area averaged 82%. They were actually fairly consistent throughout the year. District 2, under Ms. Wright, there was this high point you see there. There was a lot of work done in your district over the holiday break. The average for your area was 85%. In District 3, this Ms. Cuthbert's district, the overall average was 83%. Started off the year strong, kind of slid a little bit throughout the year. District 4 was our best performing district. This was Ms. Costello's district. Their average was 86%. And then District 5, this was Ms. Johnson's district. Also fairly consistent, but fell off towards the end of the year, with their average being 80%. What we were seeing coming out of the summer pretty well reflects that GCA certainly knows how to do project work. I think you can see that from the ups and downs from last year. We started off the year, although there were a few schools that had people worried, they pulled it off in the end. Some of the summer schools we were down to the wire on. But overall, school started out very clean this year. It is our plan and GCA's desire to maintain that cleanliness throughout the year so that we don't see the cleanliness levels fall off as we did last year throughout the semester. So certainly we're here to tell you, and I know GCA would echo the comment that we're not satisfied with where we are. There's a lot of opportunity for improvement, and we're going to be working every day to keep those scores as high as we can.
And we started our inspections yesterday, so today's day 2 of our inspections for this current school year. So we're starting compiling the data for this year. There are still some project work that needs to be done, pressure spraying at certain schools, certain areas that need to be brought up, and GCA is aware of that, and we are working with them to resolve those issues.
And this year, we're also going to be working on the grounds. That's one of the areas of focus that I want GCA to spend more attention on. We're going to look hard at our plant beds, getting things trimmed up, get everything weeded. So we want to just work on the overall appearance of the campus as you walk up to it. Any questions?
Any questions?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Does anybody want to go first?
Go ahead.
Okay. I toured with Mr. Aiken.
Yes.
And the elementary schools overall were fabulous. I have visited all my schools, even the week before school started and the first couple of days of school. I have spoken to quite a few of the GCA employees. When I spoke with Reep Detillo teachers, they wanted me to tell you that their GCA employees work so very hard. The school has never looked better than it has this year, but they had to work in a lot of classrooms that did not have air conditioning. So, and I guess Reed Patillo is shaped like a Hearst, and it has all those classrooms that are wings, and they weren't air conditioned, or else, you know, the doors were open and they were sweating all summer long.
Well, our process through the summer was we don't want anyone to work without air conditioning. So what we did was when the custodians were going to be working in a certain area, what was supposed to happen was the GCA manager would call us. We didn't want the individual custodians calling us. We wanted the manager to confirm that, yes, that's where they're supposed to be working. When they called energy management, we'd turn the system on. So in some cases, either it was a lack of communication, I don't know, but we certainly did not intend to leave the air off on anyone.
Well, yeah, a lot of teachers worked in their classrooms during the summer, and the air was off.
And when I say off,
really
it's never off. We set it to a setback temperature, an unoccupied set point, so it's on, it's just set to a higher temperature.
Oh, yeah, and we've had one of the hottest summers. Also, I contacted a teacher at New Smyrna Middle who has new carpeting, and I asked him, has your carpeting been vacuumed? Once, and it was done Friday. So we have 7 days of school, and the carpeting has been swept once. I called another teacher. And
Do you know what room number that is so we can follow up?
Portable 8.
Portable 8, thanks.
And then as you look on the side to the sidewalk, there's a portable to the left. I talked to that teacher. I don't know what portable that one is. It hasn't been vacuumed at all.
Okay.
So administration told new teacher to our district from out west that she should bring her own vacuum cleaner because that's the only way it's going to get done, which she does. She has her own vacuum cleaner, and she vacuums it every day.
Yeah, what we have, and I verified through Todd last year, and we'll reiterate that today as well. They have vacuum cleaners there, GCA does, and there's a schedule that they have that the custodian staff. So we'll follow up with New Smyrna Beach Middle School to make sure that the team there and the area manager, we place emphasis on making sure that they vacuum the carpet areas.
I know a lot of wax was going down.
Sure.
Well, teachers were there that year, so I'm concerned about the number of layers. How many layers of wax are supposed to be on the floor?
I think it depends.
It depends on the area. High traffic areas can have somewhere around 5 to 7 layers. Lower traffic areas, 3.
So
three coats
hallways
of
where students
finish.
go should have
A hallway
those
should have at least five coats.
Well, I think some of those hallways might have 1 or 2. They don't have the amount of wax.
We should
I'm
be able to
concerned
identify that through our inspection process as well. So I'm sure we'll be able to identify some of the areas that may need additional attention. And some of that GC may already have identified because of some other concerns that we had, that may have prevented them from putting down all of the wax at that point in time.
Right.
So I'm sure we're going to have to come back in several schools, especially the summer school sites that we didn't have enough time, or we didn't afford them enough time. The turnaround from last day of summer school to opening the school, or teachers coming back.
And GCA actually had a rather extensive punch list, things that they weren't satisfied with, where they didn't like a transition in a doorway or something like that. So they need to get back and correct those, but with the start of school, they just haven't had the opportunity yet.
And
we're going to follow up.
Yeah, and I did speak to quite a few of the GCA employees as I toured. And I did that with principals when I toured last week. And I said, anonymously, I said, what are your concerns? How can the district help you do a better job to take care of the school? And 2 issues kept coming up, and that was the number of staff. A lot of the schools are still understaffed, even though they're supposed to have 1 or 2. There's only, they're usually lacking a person. And also supplies. They said we just have to always beg for supplies. So we need to supply our schools a little bit better, and not just the night before and get towels in and put them in the next day. I have checked on, I stepped in and asked about how the faculty bathrooms are being taken care of. Some are and some are not. And as we saw, there's a problem with consistency, and especially from spring break all the way down to the end of to the year, because I was at Creekside Middle, and they did a wonderful job over the spring break, but then you can look at the graph, and everything starts going downhill towards the end of school. So I think we definitely have to hold the line to make sure the staff, or what they promise us, that we have to keep the staff, we have to have the supplies in the school. There has to be more consistency, and at the crews in the evening have to really do their job, because that's when the classrooms need the most attention. The vacuuming, the cleaning up, the spraying, and the cleaning of bathrooms, and the pressure washing of picnic tables. Mrs. Johnson was concerned about her son, at DeLand Middle School. Right, didn't we talk about DeLand or Deltona Middle School a while ago?
Well, Deltona Middle School.
Deltona Middle School. Most middle schools, high schools don't have large enough, by law, don't have the square footage for our students to eat inside the cafeteria. They eat outside. So if they are not pressure cleaned those every day at night, we're liable for an outbreak of some kind of bacteria. I just don't want, with our tropical weather, I don't want our students at risk. Especially when we know kids bite their fingernails, they're going to get cut,
Sure.
and you start touching garbage cans that haven't been pressure washed in weeks, or picnic tables that haven't been cleaned the night before.
Okay, so I know Russ took some notes, so we'll make sure we give the GCA, make sure we follow. Our main push this year is sustainability, and I know Russ mentioned that a few minutes ago. That's something we have shared with the GCA. We want to make sure they sustain, throughout the year, not see the drops that we have in the past. And so we'll make sure, do you know which restrooms, the teachers' restrooms that were dirty that you've seen this week?
New Smyrna Middle.
New Smyrna Beach Middle.
I've been
Okay, so
spending
everything's
a lot
at
of
middle,
time at New Smyrna
basically?
Middle.
Okay. So we'll reiterate New Smyrna Beach right after this presentation with them.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
I appreciate it. But overall, when we visited, quite a few of the elementary schools were in really good shape. But we agreed that it's the middle schools and high schools with the larger traffic, the larger square footage. But we desperately need to keep our schools clean. We promised our teachers we would do that this year.
And I thank you for accompanying me as well, and the other two board members that came with me as well, walking around. We had a good time, so
Yeah,
thank you.
It was great.
No, we did. It was hot, I agree. But we had a good time, though.
Yep.
Dr. Hill?
Have
Thank
you
you.
made any progress on a phone app for the teachers that I brought up several months ago?
We can follow up on that. I have not followed
GCA sent
up
out
on
a
it.
survey. They've actually had a little better luck by leaving a card, because one of the things they're trying to do is have the teachers begin to know who their custodian is, so that there's more of a personal relationship. So that's how they've been doing their surveys, but we'll certainly talk to them
And what
about
we're
the
also
app.
working on, Doctor, we are working on first for each of our schools, their own app. And it's related to a district app. And so we're learning how to build it, and you'll see that very soon. And then I believe there could be a component or one similar to that we can develop, because that will be rolling out very soon, and you'll see what we're doing.
I would just like to say that of the schools I've been to, they were highly satisfied. And one thing I think is significant, one school that had really had some problems last year, the principal rated it, starting school is a 8.5 or a 9. But what was more significant than that is she felt like they had a real process in place for sustaining that. So I'll be anxious to see how that works out.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I want to thank you, Mr. Akins, because you didn't take me just to the pretty schools. You were gracious enough to be very transparent, and you took me to a red school. I had chosen a yellow school on accident. I didn't know the ratings till that day.
Sure.
And then a green school was meaning everything was in place, maybe a few final tweaks. The green school was just gushing. It was an elementary school, and she'd had a lot of issues throughout the year, but GCA had worked through them with her, and she was very pleased. The yellow school was a new principal to that school, and I believe they accomplished all. I didn't receive any different information, maybe a few pressure washing. And then the red school, I personally went back to it on the Friday before I saw it 10 days before school, and then I saw it at Friday before school started. Still not impressed with the windows. That's nasty. With the metal for that, can those be removed? Because I don't see them on any of other storm
Yeah,
schools.
that's going to be,
We actually have, so I know what you're talking about, Pine Ridge probably,
Yeah.
right? Back in the day before we had impact-resistant glass, we had those metal panels to protect the windows because
So
it's
we
a
don't have
shelter.
the right glass there to get rid of
They're
those?
very difficult to take off and clean, and they don't allow us to clean the window very well.
No.
Personally, I hate the things. I would love to see it replaced with impact glass, but that would be a very expensive project. So right now, it becomes quite a project. We've done it at a couple of schools where you pull all those metal things off, pressure wash
like
them,
a garden hose
get the windows good and clean. Even when we try to use a pressure washer,
seal a spot.
it stops the water from going in behind the window. So what you wind up doing is spotting up the window real bad.
Okay.
So you have to take them off to clean in there, and it's just a lot of work.
I didn't get to walk around the entire school, but what I saw looked much better and much more improved. The grounds, I'm glad we're addressing those because that is all I'm hearing from my principals. They're just, even at Pine Ridge, this is a newer school, and it just looks desolate, and except for the new things they've put up. But like the beds are empty, or just weeds, and I know it's not all of them. But I want, they're willing to do projects. They told Mr. Aiken that they would go in, and if we brought the stuff, the mulch, the plants, that they could give the student volunteer hours to put it in, which would save us as well. And I'd like to see us do that, just to make it fresh and new. And then I think that was all the project work. First, when I heard that all they were going to do was the floors again at Pine Ridge, I was really upset. But I do see, I would hope GCA would consider teamwork after our summer schools. You know, getting it all done everywhere else. And then teams going into our summer schools that were open would be a great idea.
That's pretty much what they do. In fact, you know, they have to work over, you know, through the evenings and weekends to
Pine Ridge didn't
try
have
to do the
anybody
schools.
there.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden we're scrambling. I got furniture outside. I've got my gym floor's not done. The students can't practice. All these things, it felt like it was put off till the last minute. And that's what I just hope, that if they're not a summer involved school, 80%, I mean, that's a B. So I know that they're working at it. I know that it's never going to be perfect, because if you came to my house, it's not perfect. I don't have an expectation like that. My principals are actually pleased when I ask. So I do commend GCA for that. And I thank them for that their communication is improved. There's little tweaks always, but it's better. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate the red, yellow, and green on what we asked, because those that are listening, we actually asked the area superintendents to go out and ask the principals how they personally felt about the parents of their school, whether the school would be ready for teachers returning. So we gave them a red, means no, they don't think they could get ready before school starts. A yellow means, yeah, we're getting close, but there's still some detail work that needs to be done. And then green means, yeah, we're good to go. School looks great. We're ready to move. When we did that survey, we actually had 6 schools that were red, and I immediately notified GCA of those concerns that we had at those schools, along with the yellows and greens as well, because they need to know all of it. And they placed emphasis on the red schools to try to bring them where they are, and did send several emails stating that there's still work that needs to be done at selected schools. And so we're going to follow up based on that survey that we did to make sure the principals were meeting their needs as well.
And our cutoff should be when the teachers come back, not when the students get there.
Sure, and that's what and some of the...
That should be our goal line, is have it beautiful for the teachers.
In a couple of cases, we had projects at the schools that held up GCA.
Absolutely.
For instance, the gym work at Pine Ridge, that was not GCA. That was a capital project repairing the gym floor. So that's why it was not done.
Why couldn't it have been done in July? I'm just curious.
We got the gym floor when the school said we could have it, and actually the contractor took much longer than he initially said.
Okay, so that was on us.
But it's all great. I think what we've learned a bunch, this past year and over the summertime. We know we have some areas for improvement. We know where our focus areas are, the schools that actually had some concerns last year. And we will continue to work with GCA to make sure that we do meet the teachers' and students' needs, along with meeting the level of service that we actually pay them for.
May I ask a question, Madam Chair? With our contract with GCA, what is the percentage that they're supposed to meet?
80%.
80?
80. 8.0, yeah, 80.0.
I still think 83 is not good enough. It really isn't.
And you'll hear from
and you would hear
GCA,
from them that they don't
same
think
thing.
that's good enough.
They
either.
feel it needs to be higher.
It's a continuous improvement process. No one's satisfied with that. But anytime you implement a major change in a program like this, it takes a little bit of time to get that habit established. And so this has been a building process.
Okay. But I think Mrs. Johnson brought up a valid point, the fact that I don't think a lot of the repairing and the re-waxing started right after school was out. When teachers left, there were furniture in hallways all summer long, and those classrooms were empty. Nobody was doing anything at New Smyrna Beach High School for 6 weeks, and then all of a sudden the last 2 weeks everybody's in a fury. So I think there needs to be a better schedule.
Sure. Okay.
So we're not going crazy at the last week, because a lot of teachers do come in even the week before. And also we have a lot of, at our high schools, they really need to be paid attention to, because we have student orientation the week before teachers come back. And so we've got our communities walking through our schools, and a lot of them are not ready, and it's not a really good impression when everything is still pretty cruddy.
Well, thank you for the input, and we'll definitely move the date back to make sure that we meet the teachers and you know, our students coming back for meet and greet. Yeah, we did. So, but we hear you. We'll make sure that we look at it a little bit better next year, and then go from there for that summer clean.
I'm
And we
sure-
also have winter
yeah.
clean too. So understand that we're going to have, you know, mid-year cleans and other times where we're down that we're going to be cleaning as well. They should be cleaning as well to make sure that we're up where we need to be. Somebody owes you $50 back there, by the way. Did you hear it?
Yeah, who was that, Sarah Lee? Oh, it was Deb?
But we understand, yes, ma'am.
Thanks. Thank you. Just hope that what you tell us is what really goes on at the school level.
And actually, you know, the plan they had certainly did not show people doing things at the last minute. Sometimes staff fall behind. People go on vacation, they go on leave, they get sick. And so it was not by intent that some of the schools got behind, I can tell you.
One more positive.
Okay, go ahead.
I have heard so many good things about day porters, and most of the schools say if it wasn't for the day porters, they feel like it would fall apart. They just really are, the principals love their day porters on the west side.
Great.
So I did want to say that as well.
That's wonderful.
A lot of elementary principals I spoke to as well like their day porters. Sweetwater, you were there?
Yes,
Love,
yes, ma'am.
And Reed Patillo,
Mhm.
Indian River, Edgewater, Chisholm, they're all extremely happy with their day porters. It's just at the middle and high schools that there are some problems. I'd like to ask one additional question. Is there someone from GCA who kind of supervises or goes around to see if night crews are doing their work?
Absolutely, all of their area managers are
Okay.
supposed to be doing that. Each of the area managers has somewhere around 10 to 12 schools. So they may not get to every school each night, but that's their job, is to supervise the evening crews.
And then any concerns that are brought to our attention, either through the principal or one of y'all, actually immediately we contact Todd, which is our point of contact, and they go and then meet with the teacher. I mean, we meet with the principal and work with the crew to try to resolve whatever concern that may be. So we'll definitely get New Smyrna Beach. I'll talk about that tonight, definitely.
Thank you.
To be on my list, I can swing by there on the way in tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
So I'm going to ask the one question I ask every time. Are we fully staffed?
The contract doesn't talk about individual positions, it talks about a level of service. So when you talk about we're understaffed, that would be a GCA question if their staffing level meets the requirements to meet the level 2 that we're paying them for. So I can't answer the question, are they fully staffed or not? We can go back and see how many staff members they have assigned to each school and total numbers, but I can't answer whether they're fully staffed or not, because the contract doesn't say you must have 5, for example, custodians at elementary school. It doesn't spell that out.
To answer our question,
right?
Are they fully staffed to maintain the level that we want year-round?
So that's a question for us to make that determination, and I will go back and look, because I knew at high schools they have more in middle schools than elementary schools, and so we evaluate that based on what the score is when we go in to clean. So if they can clean it with 3 people, then is it properly staffed? I would say yes, if they're meeting the level. But if they have 5 people and they don't meet the level, then maybe it's not, or maybe it's the crew not meeting that standard. So I don't know whether it's based on the staff or how they're cleaning or what's being cleaned or not being cleaned.
Or how well they're working together.
Right. Because just based on the chart you showed us earlier, if you look at that chart, quite naturally the clinic and some of the other areas were wonderful. But on all of our charts, when you go to the classrooms and the places where our students and our children are there the most, the heavy traffic areas, none of them actually probably met 80%. They were always to the bottom. That was the area that showed the area that needed the most improvement. So my question every time, are we staffed to make all of our areas at least 80, I don't care if it's 83%, not just the top 5, but what about the classrooms? What about the girls and the boys' restrooms? Because those are the areas that seem never to get to 80% in our middle school and our high schools.
Sure. So what I'll do then is I'll go back and ask GCA for analysis on each one of their schools and who they have assigned there and kind of look at that. And then We can do a trend analysis as well based on the schools that failed last year and see where they are currently today, because we can do likes and likes. So if we have an elementary school, I can see how many they have at one school compared to the other school, and why did one pass and one didn't pass. And it goes back to performance as well. So I'll do that for you. I don't have that answer for you. I mean, I can't tell you.
I was just looking at the chart you showed us, and so
Sure.
when it showed the different areas,
Sure.
the
Yeah, there are-
classrooms and the restrooms seem to be the areas of trouble. And I don't think any of us have a problem with our elementary schools.
Right.
I
Even
think
middle and high.
I think middle school and high schools are troubled or are most concerned.
And there's not always a correspondent, to how many people there are at school. Seabreeze, for instance, has the smallest staff of any high school, yet it's consistently the cleanest high school. So it is very much a factor of how well the staff works together, more than it is the number of people there. Because that's a perfect example. The lowest staff performs the best.
So, but we'll look at it and bring it back to you. I'll answer that question for
That
you.
opens up another can of worms then. Based on what you said, if it's not the staff, then do we have the right people, do they have the right people at the high schools?
And we work through that constantly, changing staffs and finding the right team that works. And in some cases, you can see a huge difference when they get the right staff. I mean, Creekside this summer was looking far better than it did last year. So when you have worked yourself through, because it's a very people-intensive business, and until you find those people who work together well, sometimes that can take a little longer than you'd like, definitely a lot longer than you'd like. But once you get a team that has gelled together, they perform well consistently.
And in our contract, I want to move to grounds now because I was going to talk about grounds.
Sure.
So are they responsible for, what are they responsible for as it relates to the grounds?
Do we have that contract?
It's primarily a mowing type contract, mowing, edging, weed eating, those kind of things. There was not a lot of emphasis on the plant beds. They have to trim it, they have to weed them, but they were not responsible to provide mulch, replace plant material, do all of that. That was not part of the contract.
And so on a field, and I'll use Campbell, for instance. I was on Campbell's field. So they mow, and there are plenty of ant beds back there. Are they responsible for making sure, who's responsible for?
The contract includes an insect control piece of it.
Okay.
It's primarily focused at the sports fields. However, if we get a call from the school staff that they're having trouble with fire ants, GCA can use their sports turf chemicals on the play field and they can get rid of the fire ants. But typically, unless their operators notice a real problem with fire ants or the school calls about it, they're not treated on a regular basis for fire ants. That wasn't part of the contract. Okay. And it really wasn't before. And, in the district before we used Amdro, and occasionally if we had, when it was our own staff doing it, if we got a call from a school where they were having a problem much bigger than the custodians could handle with some Amdro, then we brought in our sports turf applicator and we did the same thing that GCA does.
Okay. I think we may need to look at, living in Florida, I mean, I can almost go anywhere and you're gonna have to see fire ants, but I was just asking, because I didn't know what we had in our contract, so.
If it's reported to us or they see it, we'll treat it. But, there's not a regular treatment schedule.
And honestly, I don't know if Campbell have fire ants or not. I was on their field. I was just asking because I was actually at an elementary school because we were looking at doing a hydroponic, and they had some fire ants. But the kids may not go that far. I just want to know who's responsible for.
It's kind of a two-tier. We provide Amdro to the custodians, so if it's just a mound here or there, say there's an ant mound near the playground, the custodians can drop a little Amdro on it, kill the ants. If it's a problem bigger than you can chase down with a bag of Amdro, that's when we bring in the sports turf applicator and hit the whole field.
Same with wasps as well, they have some minor stuff. If it's a big, we'll bring somebody else in.
Like we issue out cans of wasp freeze, we hit them, the maintenance workers will do it, the custodians will hit some. But if the school gets covered with it, as we did in '98 when we had the fires, that smoked the wasp out of the woods, they built nests all over the schools. Well, then we had to have the pest control company come in and take care of it. It's more than you could do with some cans of spray.
Okay. Somebody else had a question?
I'd like to see the contract. I had said it quietly, Mr. Russell, for the grounds. I don't think I've ever seen that.
Sure, we'll make sure we send that to Mr. Russell tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Hmm?
Ms. Cuthbert?
You were saying on the field, but kids go out on fire drills. And wherever they go out on fire drills, you'll encounter fire ants.
Yes, ma'am. We received a call, I can't remember what, Port Orange Elementary School, I think it was, and they did their fire drill, first 2 weeks of school, 2 required, and they identified some ants. We actually went out and fixed that area. So they'll notify us. As soon as we do, we go ahead and get that taken care of, either locally or from the school or bring somebody else in.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, definitely. On our areas where our evacuations are, we try to make sure that's clean.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Superintendent Russell, next presentation.
Thank you. Dr. Melissa Carr will give us an update on technology. We did text that to you today. She's pulling us into the 21st century.
Hopefully, you received a text from me today if you have the right phone, and I have the right phone number. If not, I'll make sure. And Mr. Russell, it is true that we're all lifelong learners, and I am definitely leading by example in my new role as Director of Technology and Innovation. Our departmental mission is to leverage technology to support superior 21st century learning environments, and boy, we've hit the ground running in this new school year. By following Mr. Russell's example of open communication, we have been proactively updating a weekly tech support plan with each of our schools that began with pre-planning week. I want principals to know when to expect a tech person on campus, how to direct staff with tech support needs, and who to contact for escalation issues. I have received a lot of positive feedback from school personnel, and I've communicated back and forth with them telling me what they need and us trying to respond quickly. And we're going to continue to evaluate how things went this pre-planning and within the first 2 weeks of school so that we can improve on service delivery moving forward. That's part one. Part two, the second item to present is in the form of a follow-up that I'd like to share with all of you, which are the results of a targeted technology focus groups that we set out to do last spring and summer. And remember, the purpose of those focus groups was to get input from staff, students, and community members on how our district should implement a technology plan with a goal in mind of one-to-one access for every student. And if you recall, that's the result of the half-cent sales tax. To share the details and feedback from those focus groups, I would like to introduce my colleague, Mike Cicchetti, who has led the charge to conduct this exercise, capture all conversations, and make recommendations for next steps. Mike?
Good evening, Board. Good evening, Superintendent Russell. Thank you, Dr. Carr. On the screens in front and as well, I'll push this back. Go on out. On your devices, if you have that open from the text message sent earlier, it is an infograph, an interactive infograph. So it's not just words and pictures on a paper, but you can interact with it on each device that you may be looking at the infograph on. So we set out to conduct a one-to-one focus group, trying to look at as many areas, departments, community members, and personnel in and around the school district. And some of those, as I move down, included not only administrators during principals and APs, but teachers, students, district staff, and support staff. We reached out to multiple departments, ESE, Title I, because each needs are unique. It's not easy to say that one word and one method works for all. So we had to include feedback from as many, if not all, departments that we were able to communicate with. And then finally, community members through the District Advisory Council, where we met and we had open discussions. And actually student-driven by typing on their devices while they were recording the responses from the multitude of parents, even teachers in that night, and community members that were present. And what we found, as far as some of the outcomes to highlight, and this infograph will dive deeper in, and you have the ability to go as deep as you need. There is a link that shows the guiding questions, and there are, bless you, there's also a link that will take you right to the outcomes from each department and each group that we met with, so you can see for yourself what their responses were. But we took all all that information and compiled it down. And what we found, and a lot of it may not seem too surprising, but as we look at it, I want to focus on that very first on the left side. Professional development and teacher training are essential. If you're moving to one-to-one, that is an essential need moving forward. This focus is not on the device, the focus is on the professional development, the focus is on pedagogy, the focus is on curriculum and the delivery of instruction. The tool that can help support that instruction and that curriculum focus is the device or devices that will be made available. So that's point one. Point number two made throughout each of the groups is one-to-one should look different, and it varies by school and by grade level. And that's an important thing to note. It's not a one-size-fits-all. There is not a device that can be found that will do everything for everyone, and there's niches. And so we have to identify those niches for each academic need. Teacher readiness should be considered, but I should have put a ... And why I like that is they said to some degree. And there's more information about the comments that led to that finding. Teacher readiness should be considered to some degree. Who's ready? Are they the first to get? Is that how the deployment rolls? But when you consider teacher readiness, there's more than just being ready at a school level, okay? And the fourth outcome was refresh plans. So on our side, as far as support in tech services and innovation, refresh plans have to be spelled out, transparent, produced, and support structures for all teacher and student devices. So not only do student devices that go out, but we look to incorporate teachers and instruction as we look to the devices as well. And these are some of the groups as well that we met with. Very positive conversations. The great thing about the focus groups is they usually tend to look at the person directing, which I was directing the majority of them, and they look to you for the answers. And the great thing about the focus groups is it's supposed to be driven and self-contained, and answers and questions kind of happen around the room very fluidly. And so I used to tell them, I'm going to put my head down a little bit, because I'm not going to give you opinions. I need to really hear what you're thinking about when you either research one-to-one or what you come to gather. And so a lot of the feedback and the comments that we got were really building upon what happened in the past, where they see the future, and where we are currently in the present. And so it was very nice to see throughout each of these groups a collective response. And those were the four that I listed here.
Mike, would you mind clicking in to show them? In this,
Sure.
You can actually dig deeper and click to see the comments. I think it's in the black band toward the bottom, right there, in there. Let's say click here. You can actually see the notes that were taken from every single focus group. And as Mike said, I think some of you were actually involved in the focus group. When I conducted the first one, I was at Mainland High School, and we actually had the Mainland students taking the notes. So you can see all the way back, as early as April 6th, there's every note that was captured from every focus group.
There's a lot of reading to
For your
do.
light readings.
But it is great reading because as we broke down these numerous pages, 38 pages, so to speak, just on this PDF, it was great to see that there were comments and questions in there that all tied together. So each area that we had the groups come together, they each had something collectively similar. And then the differences were also noted.
So there you have it. That's round one of where are we with the tech plan and moving forward. That is simply gathering input to help us craft the tech plan. Any questions?
That's great. Thank you. Questions? Where are we at teachers getting new computers? How close is that to full complete? You know, everybody's got a new system and what they need in the classrooms.
I'll start. Mike has more experience with this because of his background than I do, but the teacher refreshes actually were going on last year. There are several high schools that were getting new laptops. It continues now. We're ready to deploy. We're actually looking at a unique way to do it. What I'm learning as I sit and listen and I dig and I ask how things work is I'm going to kind of toy with an idea of, remember Willy Wonka and the golden ticket? To kind of give out golden tickets to the teachers who have the oldest devices. Because what I've seen is that they've refreshed an entire school, and a teacher could have a laptop that's 1 year old next to a teacher who had a laptop 5 years old, and they all got a new laptop. I'd rather hit those teachers who have the oldest laptops, no matter what school you work at. So if you get a golden ticket, we maybe can set up some caravans, if you will, where we'll have small teams of USAs there and folks like Mike who can help teachers transition, those files and everything they need to get a new device. So to answer your question, the deployments are continuing. We got hundreds of laptops in the summer for teachers that are sitting there in the warehouse for us to get organized and get that rolling. And I'm experimenting. I've told the guys back, the team, I said, I want to experiment with this. I want golden tickets. And they kind of smile at me and say, okay, Dr. Carr, we'll make that happen. But there's the answer for that.
So since they're sitting in the warehouse, how close are we to getting them into the classroom?
Oh, they're already going into the classroom.
Oh, they're going in there
yeah,
currently?
Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned the warehouse.
Yeah.
The other thing, I was in a school and I was trying to sign in and they said, oh, it's down, the computer. And then they lovingly or laughingly said, we're not allowed to touch it to fix it. Is there rules about that? That they can't even fix their own stuff if they know what to do?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question, to be honest with you.
I know.
So not sure that I know how to fix anything myself. If I thought I might know how, I wouldn't imagine that anyone could not come around and assist you from the front desk.
They
if
signed
knew how.
me in their computer, but the one for the parent and the staff outside, and they said they were not allowed to try to bring it back online or what. It was offline.
Okay.
And so I didn't know, are we binding our employees in such a way they can't do their jobs or can't do something to assist your department out of fear?
Well, I can say absolutely, we are not binding anybody. My whole goal is to free everybody to be as self-sufficient as they can possibly be. And Mr. Russell actually shared that with me, and so I've already asked the guys about that, and that's Raptor,
Yeah.
And the guy said that all of those machines were up and running, and so after this meeting, I'd like you to tell me which school that was, so they can tomorrow go right to that school and figure out what's going on with that device.
There's 2 or 3 of my 16.
Okay, so you'll let me know.
I'll have to think because I've seen a lot.
Okay, you let me know.
Okay.
Anything else?
In order to meet this one-to-one technology initiative that we're on, we have a sales tax revenue that I'm expecting is being used to purchase things from the district perspective, but how much of our objective that we say we're meeting is specific to that of only the district budget versus that of an overlap of Title I and district budget? Because it's more than just a purchase of technology, it's also the implementation of that, as well as the people who support the technology. So I'd like to get some clarity from your department about how we're meeting those objectives, what percentage of our sales tax revenue is purchasing the equipment versus what we're getting from the federal government and calling meeting a goal with Title I money, because I don't want to sell our district short for something that the taxpayers readily supported for what the district should be responsible. I guess to be more precise, I do not want to allow Title I dollars that we've always received by grants to take over the place for sales tax revenue dollar spending. And then I think we also need to have a valid discussion about not only the implementation but the support of devices, because we could have a large group supporting a small percentage of devices and a very small group supporting a large percentage of devices. So if the board could get clarity on that, not tonight, but on our next presentation, I think that would be valuable.
I 100% agree with you that the half-cent sales tax is going to help provide or will provide technology for students. Title I funds are not used to supplant, only to
supplement.
There you go. Supplement, not supplant, and had multiple meetings and collaborative discussions with the ladies from Title I, and it has been very clear, and we've revamped and refocused with our field support team. Field support is taking responsibility and ownership for every device that needs any kind of service to it. Mr. Cicchetti has spearheaded how we're going to manage certain devices in our district that are Apple devices that require a whole lot of extra hands-on that has been very cumbersome and time-consuming for not only Title I, but for schools that have purchased Apple. So we have been spearheading a multi-device management.
Mobile device management.
Mobile device, MDM solution. So we absolutely, I agree with you. We are taking full ownership of ensuring that there are devices, one-to-one accessibility for all students. We are not relying on any federally funded technology and saying we don't have to buy that. As a matter of fact, we just met with the folks from Title I last week, and Mike was going over this exact infographic, and I believe one of Mike's comments were, there will be no need to buy additional technology from Title I anymore. Focus on the implementation, teacher pedagogy, and instruction in the classroom. We'll take care of the devices.
Good, very good.
Okay.
I have a question. Have you been able to hire more USAs?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How many?
8.
8.
Yeah.
So what does that bring us a total of?
I think that, Demetrius, help me, it might bring you up to 25? 26. Okay. Okay, and we're actually in the process of hiring.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Anybody else? Okay.
I do want to say that Dr. Carr will be on Mark Bernier. She's this month's district guest on Thursday at 4:15.
5:15.
5:15. So she gets the drive home slot, you know. So.
Okay. Wait a minute, one more question.
Papers. I've said this now. This is my third year or second year. But my kids are coming home with a paper from each class saying it's okay to participate with IT technology. How 21st century is that? Number one. Again, they spent a bunch of money on folders to give me the same thing that's on site. So I know that you were new to this and you didn't have time, but even if we could just print that last page saying, I have read the uniform policy, I have read the student code policy at this website, or I've requested one handed to me in writing at the schools, I think we would save a lot of money on paper and actually enter into the 21st century. I think one form should cover all classes instead of, I had at both middle school and high school, and I was just like, yeah. This
Agreed.
Okay, please fix this by next year, because I said this last year. I don't want to say it again next year. It's a waste of dollars to do all these papers, and it's not green or environmentally friendly if we want to go that route.
I do want to say our USAs are some of the hardest working individuals we have in this county. And I never see one idle. They're always going here and there. And they're so knowledgeable and so polite and patient with all of us who depend so highly upon them. Right, Mr. Cicchetti?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And one thing I would like to suggest, as we start looking at technology and how we will use it in the district, if you know of a way that we could do something more efficient, if you start gathering that information and sharing it with Dr. Carr or Superintendent Russell, so that as we plan to transition into our new learning management system and that platform, that hopefully we can address the concerns of the board. And if any of your constituents have some recommendations or suggestions, please bring that forward too. I think that would be helpful for them as well.
I have a suggestion right now.
Oh, okay.
I just learned last night
I told
about...
you to write it down.
Pardon?
Never mind. I said, I told you to write it down. That's okay.
Well, this is too cool because I just learned of this. So
Okay.
I have that enthusiasm of new learning. I learned of keep the date, meet the date, hold the date, hold the date, or save the date 101.
Remind 101.
Remind 101.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Remind
Okay.
101.
Instead of Connect Ed, why don't we use that? Because we've got the parents' phone numbers anyway. Just put it on their phones instead of making the phone call, because a lot of the parents are not picking up the phone for Connect Ed.
Actually, the Connect Ed platform offers text servicing as well, and we do have a lot of principals who use that feature.
Okay.
So,
I just,
yes,
I think the new app is going to help
it's going to
us
help
as
as
gonna
well.
help. Okay,
Yeah.
I just thought.
Good thought. Very, very good. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, we're gonna take 5 minutes, 5-minute break. Excuse me, can everyone please take their seats? Board members, please come back to the dais. Linda, Melanie. We're going to start without them. We'll grab the superintendent. Ms. Fisher, you might as well come on up because you're next.
Oh no, 5 minutes is 5 minutes, man.
Thank you, Ms. Costello.
You're welcome.
Superintendent 1801, student discipline.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This presentation will be by Ms. Cynthia Fisher, Coordinator of Educational Enhancements.
She's there, she's ready. Go ahead, Ms. Fisher.
Good afternoon, actually good evening, Chairman Wright, school board members, and Mr. Russell. Today we have one request concerning student discipline. For the request, a recommendation is made to the superintendent that he request the board extend the suspension on students Alpha ID 1 RWVB and 1 VSKG from school attendance through September 13th, 2016 for the purpose of further study and evaluation.
So moved.
Second.
Boy, that was quick.
Recommended.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
I jumped.
The superintendent recommends the board extend the suspension of the aforementioned students from school attendance through September 13, 2016 for the purpose of further study and evaluation.
Now so moved.
Second.
Motion has been properly moved and second. Any other discussion?
I have a question.
Sure.
On our student absenteeism, are students on suspension involved in that?
Are they?
Are students who
Are
are
they
suspended
numbers?
involved in the absentee?
Yes.
Okay.
Now these particular students are receiving off-campus instruction, so
Okay.
they are receiving services. So
Yes,
they would,
They're receiving services, but are they counted absent?
no.
Okay.
But a student that is suspended out of school,
Okay.
that is an absence.
Like for 5 days because
Yes.
they've, okay, done something. Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Those that oppose, the same sign. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Moving on to item 19.01.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Deborah Mahler, Chief Financial Officer for Financial Services, and Mr. Jay Glover, Managing Director of Public Financial Management, will make this presentation.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, and Mr. Russell. We have the exciting topic of bond resolutions now to bring up the evening. We are bringing to you this evening a resolution expressing the board's intent to reimburse capital expenditures from bond proceeds. And this is not related to the actual bonds themselves or the bond resolutions. This is to reimburse any expenditures that we make now until we actually bond, so that we can reimburse the district from those proceeds. And Mr. Jay Glover is here from PFM, and he can answer any questions that you may have regarding this.
Go ahead, you have any questions?
I do.
Go ahead.
So it's a bridge, basically. Just put it in simplest forms, a bridge to tide us over.
Yeah, just, again, Jay Glover from Public Financial Management, the district's financial advisor. So this is really the first step you would take if you're even going to consider issuing sales tax revenue bonds in the future. And if you go ahead and start spending money that's already available within the district to complete projects, you can then come back and reimburse yourself from the bond proceeds at a later date. It's really an IRS requirement if you're going to reimburse yourselves from tax-exempt proceeds. You have to declare your intent to do so before issuing any bonds. So again, this is not saying we're going to issue bonds. A bond resolution will have to come back to you all at a subsequent meeting that outlines all the details of the bond as well as the par amount and projects. But this is just kind of the first step. In case you want to start spending money, this allows you to reimburse yourself. But again, this is not authority to issue bonds or do anything of that nature. Any of that action would always be taken in a subsequent meeting in the form of approval of a bond resolution.
Okay, that makes it very clear. Thank you so very much.
Okay. Any other questions?
The superintendent recommends approval of resolution number 2016-19, which expresses the board's intent to reimburse certain capital expenditures with proceeds of future tax-exempt financing.
So moved.
I second.
The motion has been properly moved and second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Those that oppose, the same sign. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you staying and
Moving
waiting.
to item 20.01, board members' comments. Who would like to start this evening?
I'll start.
Okay, go right ahead.
Well, I mentioned about GCA, and overall, my principals are really pleased. There's a couple that I haven't talked to yet, but I'll continue having that conversation with them. As far as the first week of school in uniforms, some of you were at Turie T. for a photo op. But I want you to know that I have started a new tradition at Palm Terrace. I don't diss the day of small beginnings. We had 5 people there. It wasn't a Million Father March, but we did have 5 people to shake the students' hands, to look them in the eye, tell them to have a great day. It's one of the most fun things. I did have several parents, and this is a Title I school, and this is kind of, it's anecdotal, but I had several moms thank me profusely for uniforms. So it really, really does help some people. Also, a shout out. I think I mentioned last time I had enlisted 5 businesses or entities and assigned them to 5 different schools. Shout out to Consolidated Tomoka, $1,500. So that bought a lot of shirts. I don't know about some of the others, and then Ministries for Christ Outreach that was committed to, they were committed, I was there for the t-shirt handout, but they were exclusively committed to providing shirts for all the students at Palm Terrace. So it was a Saturday, parents could come get 2 t-shirts for each of their students. Then the leftover shirts that weren't picked up on Saturday were there at Palm Terrace on the first day of school. There was one little boy who came not in a uniform shirt, but he left with 2 shirts. Every student was provided with 2 shirts. So the community in Ormond Beach just stepped up amazingly. I appreciate it. It's when we work together that it really, really works. And I do have one of the new principals, and he is like so excited. This is so cool. He rides like a bike, like long distance, like the pedaling kind. And so he's having days where he meets at different areas of where the school is, and he's going to ride with the students. He's really a big kid, and he's awesome. And that would be Tucker Harris. So a shout out to Tucker Harris. And if I meant to say something else, I can't think of what it is, so I'm done.
Okay. Go ahead.
I love that we had nearly 100% compliance with the uniforms. I think that came through communication at every level. I've looked and I've seen it wasn't just imposed, it was discussed at every level, how problem solved. There was collaboration. One of the Orange City middle schools accidentally ordered youth shirts, so they were able to share them with one of my elementary schools because the colors matched. So it was just awesome. And then somebody donated white shirts because that was universal, like 200 white shirts. So they decided that children that didn't have those could absolutely just have those for free. And then some principals are keeping those extra shirts in case students come out of dress code, so they can just put them into dress code and they don't miss any school. So I thought that was kind of a neat idea for the principals. I've made it to 15 out of my 16 schools. I was so close today. I thought I was going to make it to the last one, and I didn't. My big questions were, what can I do for you this year? What do you need? The biggest was the grounds. I was hearing a lot about the grounds and paint. And so I am asking questions about certain schools. Now that we're putting some money back into the capital fund each year, I'm told by Mr. Aiken we'll be able to start painting our schools that are a little bit behind. So that's exciting. I went to Eggs and Issues, and that was pretty cool because they had the new manager of the Daytona Speedway speak. And I tweeted it, but $1.6 billion they generate for this community around the surrounding area, and they're wanting to do more. So of course my question is, West Side, what do you think about the West Side of Volusia? Don't forget the West Side. You know, kind of talking to them and seeing what we can arrange. And then I had a couple ideas for them, and I'm going to share those. I did get to go to the Principal of the Year and Superintendent's Outstanding. That is so fun to scream and cheer as we go in, and their shock and the tears, and it, as you've said before, it's kind of like the Grammys or I don't know what you used, but it was pretty neat. The children's home, I surprised them. You don't really surprise them because you have to check in at the front gate, but they didn't know I was coming, so it was really cool to sit in on a class and just to watch the students engage, and when there's only 8 kids there. And then just to see the light bulbs come on was really impressive. And then at one of the elementaries, they were hunting for bears, the kindergartners, and they had toilet paper rolls, and they had bear prints everywhere throughout the campus. And what that did was it taught the kindergartners different areas of the campus. So they did and they were whispering to me and asking me if I saw the bear. And I thought I heard something is what I told them. And one of them goes, I'm a little scared. It was so adorable. The first school I went in, they were like, the kids are just holding their shoulders back. They said the atmosphere has just changed. They did attribute it to the uniforms. And they were grateful. Cost, there was a lot of savings for a lot of parents. Me personally, I didn't have to take my kids shopping. I just threw uniform shirts on the bed and it was done. And then we got some new shoes, of course. I loved one of my middle schools. It's my poorest middle school, and that's Deltona Middle School. They're actually doing yoga. They are actually doing a guitar class now, and they have 50 students this semester, and 50 more will join them mid-year. And it's so exciting to see them think out of the box. He wants to be a destination school and give these kids an opportunity to have other things that they wouldn't have had in their life. So in my mind, when we build that school, I asked him if he thought about STEAM, not just STEM, but add the arts. Because a lot of kids do go to Ivy Hahn because it's a great charter with arts. But what if we could add it to our schools as well? So that was exciting. I did just request the cost. I'd like to know what it's costing to repair that school, because they're there all the time. Our staff is there constantly because an air conditioner's breaking, sewage is leaking, water's not running. Things are, because it's so old, and are we paying more to keep it up, maintained, to keep it safe? We just talked about last time I think we gave $35,000 for this thing that comes overhang because of them eating outside. So I want to give them what they need, but are we putting off something that's costing us more ultimately, is my big questions. I already brought up the forms. I love the statement tonight from the opt-out parent, testing is not teaching. And I still align and will consistently say I love the Seminole solution, where there's a third grade Iowa standards and then there's 10th through 12th ACT, SAT, which has been proven over and over, one day, one test. And I still like that, and I'm still keen on supporting that as a board member to other legislators. And this year I'm still going to talk to our legislators, not about removing the DCD, because if you do that, the ones that are getting our 4 cents are going to throw a big fat fit politically. But if we could actually just tell them to test it, to study it. If that's what I think we could say that as a public, getting our businesses involved, because what does everybody ask when they move into a community? What's your schools like? So getting our businesses involved in the fact that they're taking $10 million out of our classrooms a year. So letting them know that is still an issue for me, and I want to keep sharing that, and I hope we all do. And I think that was all that was on my list.
I would like the district to talk to Mrs. Dykowski, who came to the board to talk. I would like the district someone to sit down and talk to her about her issues, who spoke the parent participation, to see what we can do. Maybe she can get a parent group with some teachers to work together to maybe solve, with your suggestion. Look at all the issues and what we can do with our third graders. I too, when I visited most of my schools, I visited all of them, and the principal at each one took me on a tour. And a lot of the comments is the back fences needed to be cleared. That's what a lot of them needed. The weeds had grown up so much, the fences. The kids don't know how far to run. And so when a ball or something goes into those weeds, they're a little hesitant to go in there. And I want to join Mrs. Freeman and Mr. Marks in knowing this would work all along on the uniforms. Philosophically, I'm still kind of against it, because I think in a public school system, you still should be able to wear what you want to wear. But I am very glad it's working. I'm glad for our students. I'm glad for the harmony of the school. So I congratulate everyone for this. And it is wonderful. When I went to New Smyrna High for the first freshman day to see, and I looked around at that auditorium, and it was a sea of red, black, and white, and I go Cougars. So it's pretty cool. I want to compliment Mrs. LaRue, who for the second year is going to be the chairman of DAC, our District Advisory Council. And I think she's an unsung hero of the county, who gives so much of her time, constructive time, when she has so many demands of her own family, to help out our district. So thank you very much. And I will be at the meeting. We'll be at the meeting at Mainland in a couple of weeks. So thank you. Let's see. I too, along with Mrs. Costello, would like to thank a lot of the churches and the communities like Regions Bank, Boston Whaler, the city of Edgewater. I packed backpacks, gave backpacks away. There was a whole ceremony, and they raffled off bicycles to elementary kids and middle school kids. And then what the city of Edgewater didn't give away at the YMCA event, back to school event, they took to the 2 elementaries in Edgewater, Indian River and Edgewater, public, to give more backpacks away that were filled with supplies. So thank you to the city of Edgewater for all the donations, because they were, a lot of businesses were places to hold the backpacks where other community members contributed to them. So thank you for that community. I attended my first Volusia Manufacturing Association Education Committee. There's a Champions Tour for guidance counselors coming up at the first ISE Day at the end of October, and I believe there's about $30,000 worth of scholarships that our schools can apply for CTE. I do want to ask a question about one of our policies. I know through a lot of our bidding processes, we usually go with the lowest bidder. Is that our policy to go with the lowest bidder? Because sometimes the lowest bidder isn't always the best. In the long run, maybe it would be the best price initially, but over maybe 3 to 5 years, it might not be the best price. So I'd like to know if we could have a discussion, maybe the next board meeting,
Sure.
about maybe we can alter this policy so it doesn't always automatically go to the lowest bidder. You know.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just to look into it, just to see, what's there. Let's see. And I did visit all my schools. They're all wonderful. Go Southeast Volusia. I live in a very beautiful area of the county. So I just, except for some of my schools that aren't as clean as they could be, but I just want to say I'm very proud to represent them for another year, another school year. So thank you.
No. Please. Go ahead.
I said I got something I forgot. I went to Pine Ridge High School because they invited me, and they're going to do this really cool, or they're wanting to do this really cool thing called a wrap. And what that does is you've seen them on cars, but they're actually going to make it for the Health Science Academy. And it'll look like a 3D, like you're running down the corridor of the emergency room or nurse's station. And it's a really cool concept. And when kids are excited about their environment, then they're more engaged, is what the studies are showing. So they were super excited to include. So we're getting our 3 estimates and figuring that out. The buttons, I had mentioned, no, I said I forgot 3. The buttons, I was neat because Dr. Carr just showed me on the new app, there is going to be a suggestion button. There is going to be ideas, and then there's going to be reward or telling about other good customer service or good things about your coworkers. And I don't know how to figure this out. This is so out of my league, I'm thinking, but you're good. At Universal Studios, they actually give these bonus bucks when an employee gets positives from either their managers or whatever, and then they can turn those bonus bucks into discounts for merchandise or free stuff. I would love to see us as a district partner and find out ways that maybe teachers could get school classroom supplies, or I know we can't just buy that, but we could get people involved to support all those positive things and create a system that they could turn in those bonus bucks for positive, a culture of positivity. That's what I want to see. And then my last thing is I would like, because this has been brought out about the absenteeism, I am keen on a workshop on teacher and employee absenteeism so we can be transparent and we can talk about it and get the facts.
Okay. You too? I just have one more, and it's good.
You're not going to do that?
Okay. I just want to, I'm thrilled that we now have our half-day CTE facilitators. I went to the Education Committee for the Southeast Chamber of Commerce, and Mrs. Johns, who is also heading up the Criminal Justice Academy at New Smyrna High, was there, and she was taking control right off the bat. She said, okay, let's organize for this. I'm going to visit the Rotary Club. I'm doing this. I'm going to get speakers together. She is up and ready. So I want to give a thank you to all the people who were responsible for getting us a half-day, and hopefully we'll have more later, but a good start on getting our facilitators back in the high schools for our CTE program. So thank you very much. So far, it's good.
John, I don't know if you and I are going to get to speak tonight.
Go ahead. Okay, I have 3 things, but I'm only going to do one.
Okay.
I wasn't going to do any, but this is
Okay.
really important because I inadvertently forgot to give Dr. Hill a shout out for the contribution he made for Palm Terrace. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Go ahead, tell your other 2 quickly.
No, I'm done.
You done?
Mhm.
You sure?
Yep.
Okay. John?
I want to agree with Mrs. Johnson's comments about the opt-out. I think it's something that we should study as a means of not over-testing students. I think the board has voiced many opinions across time about how much testing, and I'm in support of the ability to not put high-stakes testing on our students
And our teachers.
and unfortunately, we do not have the ability to control that, but we have the ability to voice our concerns publicly, and perhaps legislatures will take this under their hat and do something different for it, because I don't think it's fair to children to have that happen to them. So I'm certainly in support of that. I hear from way too many parents that their kids are just overstressed about that, and I'm in support of whatever they do. So maybe the district could keep looking at how to shave more and more district testing over time. I'm sure Mr. Russell's excited about that.
We've been working on it this summer, so we'll be able to share that with you.
The absenteeism as far as teachers go, I think a workshop is phenomenal. I have heard over the tenure of being on the board about arena substitution, and it's sickening. I'm not going to mistake the words I say about 17, 18 classes on a Friday sitting in a cafeteria with a substitute teacher trying to oversee them, and have parents, grandparents, teachers reach out to me to complain about their loved ones who are not being taught because we have a mass absence. And of course, I'm not going to excuse the fact people are allowed to be sick, or people are allowed to be out on workers' comp or disability. But by the same token, those people who feel like I stepped on their toes with my comments are probably people who know how to manipulate the system at times. And so I've asked Mr. Russell to look into the matter, and we need to have people who want to take ownership of that, because I've had teachers come to me frustrated with coworkers who call out absent and have it scheduled in advance on a calendar throughout the school year because they feel that it's just their right to do it. Well, unfortunately, I don't think that it is. And is it a major problem? I don't know, but it's a problem I hear way too often from people, constituents in this tax district that are fed up with arena substitution. It's inexcusable. I met a gentleman who is a substitute teacher, and I didn't know him from the man in the moon, who said he works 5 days a week all year long without any thought about never working because of the amount of time. Now, is that time the time that is reported in emails to the board members, which is public record, is time of just being absent, not time of professional development or time of leadership training, which is additional time that we are removing qualified educators from instructing children. And so the district needs to take a focus in on that as well, about how much time added together on all of these aspects is a teacher not in the classroom, and then only add the fact of when the students have chronic absenteeism. We highlighted that this evening. So how much time are our students really losing at face-to-face time with their teachers? And I think that as a topic that there are a lot of intricacies within that, but it needs to be dealt with. It's unfortunate Mr. Spar left, because I'm going to agree with him about one of his comments, and that is the teacher evaluation. The same thing I have said all along about how Medicare is going to evaluate doctors about patient outcomes is the same unfortunate thing that teachers are being faced with now about how their students perform on a test. When I ask a patient to take their medication, get lab work, and follow up, and they don't do it, and then they have a poor outcome, that it's unfair as reflective that I am a poor physician for them not being compliant. And so I think there are a lot of similarities that the federal government indoctrinates into public education about how teachers are being faced with student outcomes when it's not necessarily the teacher's fault. So I would be in support of Mr. Spar's argument that I think that is an unfair evaluation system, to say the least. But by the same token, I feel some of his comments tonight need to be brought up to public speed too. The teachers union, that the taxpayers may not know, they escort themselves into our schools on a daily basis, and they broadcast many things that are completely and utterly inaccurate to not only members of their union, but members who do not choose to be part, or people who do not choose to be members of their union. I'll speak to what I have been told by their members who sit in those meetings, so the board members can hear, that I want to abolish public education. This is spoken out of the mouths of people who want to chastise me for bringing up things. That I want to do away with schoolway cafe employees. That I want to remove all health care from the school system. These are statements that are being made in our facilities being paid for by our taxpayers on a day-to-day basis by somebody who wants to come up here and call me out for highlighting an area of potential abuse. So we can argue about the perspective of things, but from a perspective standpoint, I had a gentleman who is a participant in the teachers union, paying a lot of money to be that, say to me, well, why don't you ever broadcast these things publicly about the things that they say about you? Well, I mean, I can, and I will tonight. But inevitably, it doesn't change the demeanor of what is being said about all of us at every school, at every time they have a meeting, that are completely inaccurate, only to drive a cause, and that cause is to improve their membership. Now, I'll say this tonight because the board members don't know this, but I'll ask Mr. Russell to provide you with this information that I requested. Historically, if you look back at Mr. Sparr's compensation for being on the union representative, he's paid as a TOA, a teacher on assignment. And I wanted to find out, well, how much money does he make as a TOA? And I'm sorry that he's not here because I was counting on him being here to hear this. But he has had a historical pay raise annually dating back since 2003 for 3 years, 3 or so, of about $5,000 a year pay bonus, which is not a bonus one time, but added. And then it went to about $10,000 a year. And then I don't know, Mr. Russell can correct me if I'm trying to recall it, but now it is at over $12,000 a year pay increase annually. There's a problem there. There's a real problem there. Because I asked for transparency about how that happens. Is there a contract for why he gets a $12,000 raise every year that that the union is reimbursing us for? Is there something that was done behind the scenes? And I've been told now, and I think it's fairly clear, that we are past a bill for how much we're supposed to reimburse him for, and or pay him that we're going to be reimbursed for. So I'd like to know, when is enough enough? I mean, does he stay as a union leader for the next 20 years and we're now paying him $350,000 a year to go into schools and broadcast that board members want to abolish public education, want to fire people, hate teachers? Because this message to me is not fair to anybody who really cares about public education. I'll also go as far as to say that when I was standing in the emergency room on a night where one of the moms mentioned tonight that I was not present, which was the Teacher of the Year awards banquet, and I'm trying to take care of a dying patient that I didn't anticipate I would be taking care of, Mr. Sparr himself took the opportunity to broadcast all over social media that this is the first time in history that a board member wasn't present for the Teacher of the Year award banquet. And then went so as far as to encourage other people when I didn't show up for graduations because I had neurosurgery on my back to broadcast every single time that I wasn't there, even though the chairperson spoke on my behalf and made a comment that I wasn't participating, about why I wasn't there. But you know, no one bothers to call you to ask your well-being. They just want to broadcast all the negativity the same way that it's being broadcast today and tomorrow in our schools. So as far as defending board members, I'm not going to go into schools every day and defend what I'm doing or what we are doing as a board. But I think it's pretty much time that the taxpayers are aware of what is being said. And I think it's time that new teachers, the 500 that we hired this year, don't get bullied into joining something because other teachers make them feel as if they have to. And I've talked to some new teachers who were pretty much told blatantly that they had to join a union if they wanted to get something done. Well, no, let me correct this statement. I am here as a representative of the taxpayers. I'm not here for the teachers per se or for the students per se. I'm here to represent taxpayer dollars to make sure public education is delivered effectively. So I am here in the long run for making it better for our teachers as the best I can. They don't need someone who lies about me or other board members to defend them or protect them from me. I'm not going to do them harm. I'm only going to try to help them improve what they're capable of doing. But I'm sick of people bullying young graduates into thinking that they have to pay a due to have a layer of protection. So I'll ask Mr. Russell to present publicly at some point to the teachers to know what type of liability they have or protection they have with the state tax dollars for if they are sued.
$5 a year and it's $2 million coverage.
So because I think that's the selling point of the hate that is broadcast about the taxpayer representative. So I have a right to my opinion, and I'm going to offer it. And there is nothing here that's going to keep me from being politically correct in my statements, because frankly, I'm giving my time here, all of it. And I owe nothing to no one. And I will not apologize to anyone for bringing light of a potential abuse scheme. So don't expect it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Attorney Dorr? Nothing. Superintendent Russell?
Thank you. In regards to uniforms, it was an outstanding rollout, and I need to thank Nancy Waite for taking the lead. I need to thank the committee, every department here in the district. We had a volunteer, and they met every week, and after hours, they went out to our vendors, to our stores. They communicated with the community and businesses. The Principal Advisory Committee, I appreciate their input. The area superintendents, thank you so much for your work in this. And then it was the principals, the APs, and the teachers and the staff that worked to make that a great opening. I would like to touch on the 9th grade. 6 of our 10 high schools suspended their schedule for 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, and just had freshmen come in the first day. And one principal told me, he said, "My only regret is this. I wasn't the one who thought it up." And so basically it looked like this. It was an orientation. They taught the students the culture of the school. They had a modified bell schedule, so they went through the entire day, saw their teachers. Teachers went through their first day routine. Then they broke up in groups. They took them around different parts of the campus, the tours, and then at the end of the day, they instilled the school culture by having a pep rally, teaching the kids the cheers, and they said the best indicator that the day was a success was day 2. You did not have the issues you usually see, and so that made for a smooth opening. In regards to employee attendance, I did speak with all the board members, and I did speak to Mr. Spar on Friday, and this is what we have done as a district to begin to address this. We went to the principals and said, no more arena subbing. There may be a time or two, certain times of year. For instance, a high school principal, usually with the sub list and the sub, you know, if a teacher calls in after 6:45, and anything can happen, a child could be ill or anything, and they're unable to come in, it is very hard to get a sub. And if you have 2 or 3 of those, then what do? In that case, you would pull those 3 classes in. But if 9 times out of 10, that is not the case. So we have addressed arena subbing. I have talked extensively with the cabinet about this last week and this week. And in the past, this district had an employee attendance committee. And we're going to reconvene that. Different board members have offered questions and ideas that they want us to investigate. I did bring this up to Mr. Spar. He does remember it. Certainly, and he agreed to it, he can sit on that committee as well. But we're going to investigate and look into the data. And then that After that, we can do a full report at a workshop, for all of you. So I want you to know that we did take the ball and we ran with it, and that's the direction we're going to move in. But let's not lose sight of what has happened the last 7 days of school. We've had a wonderful opening. I'm so pleased with the leadership at the schools and what's going on in the classrooms. And I too, I'm working my way around the county, and I'm going into the schools. And everyone is they're happy. And they're happy because we have settled with the negotiations. And for what I've heard time and time again, we will not have that environment for the next 2 years. And everybody clearly understands that we're focusing on the education of kids and their achievement. And that's the right thing to do. And so I'm very pleased. And tomorrow morning, I'm going to be working up into Ormond. And so I'll be visiting the schools up there. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to say an awful lot about uniforms other than this. Our students look good. Mm-hmm. And I think as a unit, there's nothing wrong with us disagreeing. So, Mr. Marks, we will not hold that against you on your evaluation. No, just teasing. No, but seriously, I think it's good. And just giving some time an opportunity to see. I think most of the children have enjoyed it. I want to also thank, I was with Madam Costello on that Friday with Mrs. Polite and her church organization, and some of the shirts that were left over we donated to other schools. I gave some green polos to Superintendent Russell to bring over to the west side of the district. I took quite a few up to Horizon Elementary. So I was able to make rounds to many of my schools, but they look nice. They really do look nice. And I thank the parents, because we had many parents who disagreed, but they did at least agree to follow the policy, and I thank them for that. We want to send the right message to our children. Coming back to curriculum is one of my pet peeves that was actually made me get on this, decide to run for school board. So when we talk about testing, I'm hoping that we can look at 1 day, 1 test. I was asked recently, what could we change? I said, actually looking at removing all the shackles our teachers have as it relates to testing. Mm-hmm. So hopefully we are looking forward to that presentation to see how we can reduce testing. And hopefully this summer our teachers were able to build the modules they needed for both math and ELA, so that they can share materials as they need it for the new standards. Had an opportunity to attend, and I think I just went brain dead, an event, and I want to go back to something I heard about absenteeism. At our university this year, all of our administrators, both deans and cabinets, are teaching. And I know this may sound hard for our district administrators, but I think if we have an issue with substitute teachers, they should be able to go in and teach the class. I think it would be great for them every now and then to step foot, yes you did, Vice Chairman Johnson did say that, to just get a feel for the classroom. Because believe it or not, if you've been out of the classroom for a long time, I think you will have your eyes open as well. But I think it's a good idea that every now and then you go sub. I would love for us to sub. I know we can't get paid. I've asked when I first got on the board, could I be a substitute teacher? But I understood that because we were board members and the pay and all of that. But I think if we could, it would be great for us to go in and cover a class and make sure that we're not breaking the law. But I just think all of us could help with this problem. It's not a one person, because I know, again, that it comes down to budget issues like Mom Oliveri said earlier. But I think if all of us could chip in and every now and then sit in and sub, I think that it would be a real eye-opener. And just sitting in a classroom for a class meeting has been an eye-opener for me. But sitting there for a whole day and have to manage a classroom, I think it would be great for us. So with that said, I'm looking for an exciting week. If you have not voted, please make sure you vote. It is your right to vote. You should want to vote, but make sure you get out and vote, if not this week, next Tuesday. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Have a great evening.